Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to colinslaststand.com. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 128. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by Chris Raygun. Chris, how are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yes, good. I'm glad to hear that. We're recording at nighttime to accommodate the Game Awards.
Yeah. No, we had to do it.
We had to accommodate the Game Awards. I feel like I'm looking through my notes here. I feel like we probably couldn't have really gotten away with ignoring the Game Awards until next week. I'm not saying in perpetuity, but you know, we usually record our shows on Thursdays, publish them on Patreon on Fridays, and this is a Thursday event. I think this happened to us last year too, but I was in California last year with you, so the timing wasn't as bad. It's almost 10 o'clock here, so hopefully I'm awake. I've also been awake for like more than 12 hours, which is just remarkable.
Wow.
I'm not saying being awake for that long. I'm saying just having gotten up that early.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds like hell.
Yeah, it's just Rush. It's Rush's fault. He gets me up and I just bounce awake. And it's funny because then I'm like, it's like 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. I don't even really have any, I don't know what I'm supposed, I think I said this already, but I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
At certain times in my life when I get up too early. But nonetheless, we thank everyone for joining us here on Sacred Symbols, our weekly PlayStation podcast. You can support the show and get it 3 days early and ad-free at patreon.com/colinslaststand, like nearly 10,000 of you do. You can also submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas to our show over there. And you get access to Sacred Symbols Plus, which is our weekly Patreon exclusive show. We do an episode each and every week. I'm a little tired, I guess. I'm already fumbling a little bit. But last week we did Demon Souls. Spoiler casted by Maddie and Dustin did that. So that's for Demon Souls Remake. People really enjoyed that episode. I think next week Chris will convene and do something on award shows because I want to talk about what our expectations are and how we can do them better. Because here's what I was thinking. Here's when I was watching the show is that I'm like, I can't do any better than this, but it can be done better than this.
Yeah.
So I think those are two different things. I think Geoff Keighley deserves a lot of credit. I think he's got a lot of charisma. I think he's a really nice guy. I'm not trying to diminish what he did, but I think it would be fun to kind of delve into award shows generally and how we think they can be parlayed better to the gaming industry. So I think that's what we'll do next.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
All right, let's get into some corrections and notes here. And by the way, this podcast is going to be a little bit more fractured than we usually do. Fracture like the great 2008?
2009,
first person
2008?
2009. Yeah, 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to go through our usual corrections and notes and then get into the games that we're playing like we usually do. And then we're going to get into the news, but half of the news really, or most of it is going to be just us talking about what was discussed at the Video Game Awards and revealed there. And then we'll get into the normal numbered news and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to let everyone know, didn't really need to let you know that at all, but figured I'd let you know anyway. But what I do want to remind everyone of, Chris, is that our game Herbroxia 2, which I wrote, being developed by Lilymo Games, the studio I co-own. We announced already it's coming out February 3rd, 2021 on PS4, Vita, as well as Xbox One, Switch, and PC. So please do look forward to that. You can check out the trailer online. And we are doing physical releases via our friends at East Asia Soft and Play Asia for the PS4 and Vita versions. I do want to say, because I was talking to Barry, the developer that I work with on these games, and the Vita version's selling great because it's an open pre-order period. Typically what they do, Chris, is they say, like, we'll have 1,000 copies of each.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. And then we learned during Twin Breaker that we actually had way more of a demand. I think this time, because we have an open pre-order period, this is kind of like living by the sword and dying by the sword. Because we have an open pre-order period for the game, there isn't as much urgency. And so the Vita copy is doing fine, but we actually need people to kind of step on the gas a little bit with the PS4 iteration of the game, if you're interested in it, because if we don't reach a certain threshold, we won't even be able to produce the physical version. So the Vita version will already be produced, but we don't know if the PS4 version will follow through as well. So please look into it if you're interested. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Chris, before I get any further, I'm just curious, what's going on with your life in terms of are you in California now again permanently? You were talking about buying property in New York for a while. I'm kind of curious where your mind's at. I've been meaning to ask you this.
Yeah, well, I mean, still keeping things close to the chest, just because, I don't want to jinx anything. But, I mean, obviously, there's like a bit of a lockdown kind of now. There's like a stay-at-home order in Los Angeles. Obviously, people are going to be flying a lot for the holidays, so I imagine we're going to see a huge spike in January. I'm really certain of that. So I don't know, like everything's a little bit delayed and weird, but it doesn't change the plans. It just sort of changes the timetable, I guess, a little bit.
Sure. Okay. Well, fair enough. She's really your friend. I just follow her on Twitter. Keighley, who moved to California, I guess, recently.
Yeah.
And I've just been seeing her tweets pop up, and I was like, that's funny because
everybody's moving
you're
around.
going into it. Yeah, you're going into the lockdown, as opposed to trying to like escape. Like you're actually voluntarily entering a state of lockdown.
Yeah, it's actually kind of wild.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty interesting. But all right, well, I just wanted to kind of check in on you there. Everything else good in your life? Everything else
yeah,
quality?
everything's pretty good.
Yeah,
everything's
good.
I can't really complain. Given how bad it is for, probably a lot of people right now. Like it's it's not ideal, but like it's still relatively fortunate.
It's not going to stop you from complaining, but you don't have to complain nonetheless. All right, well, fair enough. I don't want to get everyone too excited, but towards the end of the show, I haven't eaten anything yet today. So towards the end of the show, I'm going to go onto Uber Eats, and we'll select what I'm going to eat tonight, because the options will be fairly limited out here in Central Virginia this time of night.
Damn.
So we'll see what we can scrounge up.
Do you have groceries?
I have groceries, yeah, but I'm not gonna. It's too late for that.
Who said? Wait. Who says that? Who says it's too late for that? You're the master of your own house.
I know, but I feel. Well, maybe you're right. I mean, because I was gonna I already took everything out because I didn't anticipate going so late today. I was gonna make fried rice today. So I have like my rice cooker out and like the pans and whatnot, but I figured I would just do that tomorrow.
Do it, man.
It's too much.
Look, I don't know. I've made pancakes at like 2 a.m. I've fried chicken at 3 a.m. Like it's never too late to just satisfy or satiate a good hunger.
I'm just telling you right now, it's too late.
Just completely shot it down.
All right. Just want to let everyone know, here we have some notes. PS4 and PS5 both have firmware updates. So if you haven't downloaded those yet, you should go check them out. Nothing too major. We discussed this last week or 2 weeks ago, though, Chris. AT&T was shopping around Crunchyroll. Sony was apparently interested in this because they own Funimation. That deal has apparently been agreed to for $1.175 billion. So Sony will be able to unite Crunchyroll and Funimation into some sort of, I don't know, some sort of transformer-like device. Not transformer. I mean, that wouldn't really be right. Oh, Voltron, right. God, yeah. I'm fucking tired, dude. I'm just going to move on.
It's probably fair.
Oh, yeah, it is a good idea. By the way, this was an interesting one. I saw this news pop up in a few places. I wouldn't make much of this, but The Elder Scrolls 6 is listed in the PlayStation Awards on PlayStation blog as one of the most anticipated games, like you can vote on for PlayStation, I guess, for the upcoming year. There's nothing to this, but I was thinking about this. This is a pretty clever thing for Sony to do, I think. To say like, well, as far as we know, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So we're going to nominate, and then hopefully it even wins. So then when Bethesda and Microsoft go, I mean, at one point they could be like, well, fuck you, you don't get it. But on the other hand, they're going to be like, wow, we're going to withhold this game. So nonetheless, people are reading into that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's...
You think there's anything there?
I don't think so. I don't think there's much there. I don't even know if it was like a strategic thing like you were talking about. I think it's just purely an accident.
I'm sure it probably was, but nonetheless, I thought that was interesting. Sony released a new trailer that shows Ratchet and Clank, Gran Turismo 7, etc. People can go look at that on their YouTube channel. But one of the things that's interesting in there is they show Project Athia. People will remember that this game was shown in the PS5 event. I think that was in June. This is basically a Square Enix Project Luminous game. Looks like an action RPG of some sort with like a female protagonist. Looks really cool. In this trailer, it says that Project Athia is PlayStation 5 exclusive, console exclusive for 2 years. I feel like that wasn't really like something I wanted to write up, but people are talking about it. I don't know.
Still news.
There's that as well. And then let's see here. Oh, Spyro 4. So there's an art book for Crash Bandicoot that apparently has a Spyro 4 logo in it. So people can go look. I don't want to spoil too much, but you can go look that up as well. There are pictures of it floating around. Now let's see here, Chris. Ray Ripley wrote into us on Patreon and says, "What's up, Crunchy Colin and Creamy Chris? Colin, last week you briefly mentioned that Kratos was now in Fortnite in the wrap-up. I'm surprised that you guys didn't talk about the implications of this. Besides the PlayStation character being seen on Xbox and Nintendo consoles, this could be the beginning of the marketing for God of War Ragnarok. If this is true, then maybe Ragnarok really is coming out next year. Why wouldn't Sony promote a character that fits better with Fortnite like Aloy? Why specifically Kratos? Horizon 2 is coming up sooner than God of War 5. Or, I'm sorry, God 5?
That's a weird way to abbreviate that. Yeah,
yeah. First of all, yeah, it's Geo. You said, I think you meant GOW 5, but we're not calling it God of War 5. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But he says it's typically more colorful and kid friendly. Blah blah blah. I wanted to bring up Ray's comment because for two reasons. Number one is that I think he's actually right. That is way more interesting than I think we gave it credit for. Kratos will presumably be on everything now, so you're going to see that character popping up on the Fortnite version of. Or the Xbox version of Fortnite and the Switch version, etc., which is kind of cool. But also because in the Game Awards, they announced that Master Chief is now coming to Kratos. So now you're going to see it in the inverse as well.
My boy.
What do you think's weirder? What do you think's weirder? Kratos on Xbox or Master Chief on PlayStation?
I don't know. I think that's both. I feel like both of those are pretty bizarre in an equal way. I think Master Chief on PlayStation is probably weirder only because he is like the flagship character of that console, whereas like Kratos is like important, but like PlayStation has had many, important faces throughout the years and throughout the decades and throughout like every generation that eventually come to other platforms anyway. Like currently Crash Bandicoot is on everything right now, and that if you were to tell me that when I was a kid, I would be like kind of blown away by that. But so it's kind of, as weird as it is to say, it's kind of par for the course for iconic PlayStation characters to kind of eventually be seen elsewhere. Whereas right now, the only place that a lot of Xbox characters are seen, aside from Xbox, is just sort of PC.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I feel like PlayStation's so much more siloed off that seeing Master Chief on there is interesting, but maybe it's a further sign of a sort of thawing. Fortnite is so big that I feel like they have to kind of play nice. I mean, what are you going to really do? And also, these characters kind of being announced and revealed at the same time, it could be that they went to both of them and said, like, you can both have an iconic mascot character in here if you want, and one's going to go and the other's not. And obviously, Microsoft's going to do that. So
yeah, it's almost like the closest you can get to having like a Smash Brothers reveal without it being Smash Brothers. I hate to give Fortnite that amount of clout and credit, but it is a huge game and a lot of people play it, and the fact that both of these companies were like, yeah, we'll put an iconic character in is I think that means something, especially because neither of these characters are in Smash Brothers.
I totally agree with you, 100%. So, really nice thought, Ray. Thank you for writing in. Estelle, the FMA, wrote in and said, "What's your guys' opinion on thin crust pizza?" I feel like I love thin crust pizza a lot. Oh, I'm wondering if you feel the same.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't. It's not my preferred, but if I see it at a party, if somebody says I'm getting a pizza and they show up with a normal pizza or a thin crust, I'm satisfied. Like I'm fine. Like I have no objections to that. I did go to a family gathering recently, like when I was back in New York for the 2 months that I was there, and I was really disappointed because I was promised pizza, but what we got was a Sicilian, and a Sicilian is good. Like, I don't have a problem with Sicilians. But when I hear pizza, I kind of prep my palate and kind of prep my expectations for something a little bit more specific. And then you kind of get a Sicilian and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is just kind of like this isn't really what I was looking forward to, even if it is kind of close.
Yeah, Sicilian pie is interesting because I crave it once in a blue moon. Mm-hmm. And I'll eat it when it's there. I mean, especially in New York, it's a viable option. People order Sicilian pies all the time. But people that don't know, Sicilian pie is like a rectangular pizza that's like much thicker.
Yeah.
And it's like very doughy, and there's cheese and sauce on it. But I love the corner piece, though, when I do get it.
Oh, it's the best.
Get that like sweet corner piece. I love that.
Yeah, it's the best part. But like usually, like just etiquette, just basic etiquette. I was astounded because it was my family doing this. You know, and I was like, you can't tell me there's going to be a pizza there and it's a Sicilian and that's the only type of pizza that's there. It's like, you can't do that.
Right. That's usually an accompanying option.
Yeah.
To a normal
It's usually
pizza.
like you have a pizza and a Sicilian, or like you say like, hey, we're going to order a pizza. We're thinking Sicilian. You know, you specify that because it's so unique of a pizza experience.
Yeah, you're right. I would be flabbergasted if I walked into a party of some sort and wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
And that was the only option. I wouldn't necessarily enjoy that. I am Sicilian, but I wouldn't necessarily enjoy that. But yeah, I'm fine SLDFMA with thin crust pizza. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Just any New York style pizza I'm going to really defer to above all else. Thin crust is really, you can kind of get thin crust in New York. I mean, depending on how you describe it, like the Brooklyn style, but I really equate thin crust actually with Chicago because they have the thick Chicago style pizza, but then they also have that like really thin pizza.
Yeah.
That's really good as well.
I remember like when I was a kid, like when the pizza shops would close in Yonkers, like the shitty places were kind of always open way later, like Domino's or whatever. And we would always get like a Domino's thin crust, and I remember that actually being pretty good. Like it's way better than their normal pizzas, I think. But that might just be like back then. I don't know how it stands up today. I mean, a lot changes in like 20 years.
Domino's hits sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, Pizza Hut, Papa John's. I feel like these places once in a while, especially when I watch football, those commercials are on repeat. Eventually you succumb.
Yeah.
And you order one.
Pizza Hut I appreciate. I appreciate Pizza Hut's how experimental they're willing to get. Like, it's just like, hey, here's a stuffed crust. Hey, here's like a crust that has like hot dogs in it. It's like, all right, well, this is fucking absurd. To the point where it's like, it's almost admirable how bizarre this is.
Yeah, you can't help but respect that. And it's funny you bring that up because there's a few good pizza places around here. And one of them, so my nephews were here watching football, and we were ordering food, and one of them wanted me to order this pizza that's like just a cheese pizza from this place, but they have garlic knot, like a garlic knot crust.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I never had anything like this before, and it was great.
Yeah, it sounds great. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I really loved it. I love garlic knots. I mean, I got to stop talking about this because I'm so fucking hungry.
Yeah, we got to stop. I'm getting hungry too.
Well, I guess there's one more food comment. This one comes from Corey Vaught. I wanted to include this one because it annoyed me so much that Corey wrote in. He said, "Hey, CNC, just wanted to dispel a common misconception about cats from last week. While it is true that cats love milk, many are actually lactose intolerant, so giving a bowl of milk to your cat could leave you with a horrible mess. Keep up the good work, guys. You never fail to entertain." Corey, I don't feel like I hear from you very often, if at all, Corey, and this is what you want to write in about. I don't recognize this name. And then he decides that he wants to break his silence by writing in about the lactose intolerance of cats. That's what made him want to break his silence.
Were we talking about milk?
Yeah, because remember we were talking about cereal and people putting milk into the bowl first.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This wasn't even that long ago. I can't believe I remember that. But
Yeah.
I do remember.
That's a weird first impression to want to make.
Yeah, I don't know, Corey. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I need to know that. I feel like it's a little much to write in about that, but we've had weirder letters on this show.
That is true.
I will say that. All right, Chris, let's get into what we're playing here. It says you're playing, not surprisingly, like many millions of other people, Cyberpunk 2077. How do you like it?
Yeah, so this is obviously pretty huge. It's a pretty huge day. It just came out, I think, last night. I only played it for about, I want to say 3 hours this morning, before I had to get ready to watch the award show and obviously go to record this. So I don't have that much time with it. I decided to get it on, I was asking around because I've heard that this game runs really poorly on base PS4 and Xbox One, as expected, quite honestly, but on PC, it's not exactly consistent either, and I was thinking, I was arguing with myself. I was like, do I even want to play it? Because I almost don't know if I'm going to get, a completely broken copy or, a bugged copy. I don't know. I don't really know how it runs on the console, so I put out a tweet. I was like, hey, how does this run on Series X and PS5? And the consensus seemed to be kind of mixed, but more people told me that it ran a little more consistently on Series X. So I downloaded it on Series X, and I've been playing, like I said, about 3 hours. I enjoy whatever the hell Cyberpunk 2077 is quite a bit. I went into this really blind. I have really no hype attached to this thing. But I gotta say, I really, really like it. I like the minute-to-minute gameplay. I like the world. That Night City is like really beautiful. It runs pretty well too on Series X. I can't speak to PS5 or obviously base PS4 and Xbox One are like really tragic. I'm sure have you seen any of the?
Oh yeah. The videos making the rounds are great.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've had a couple like visual bugs where like a character will walk through a thing and it breaks immersion for a while. And I've had on 2 occasions the game will freeze for like 3 seconds. I think twice this happened. 3 seconds while I was driving. And then it was like it paused, and then it would resume really easily. And I was like, all right, well, that's weird. It is a buggy mess. I would certainly wait to jump on board if you're really excited for this thing and you really want to experience this in the best possible way. I would say like hold off until it's fixed. I mean, The Witcher 3 also launched in a comparable way. The Witcher 3 was not always the critical darling that it currently is. It launched in a pretty buggy state on PC. It was like virtually unplayable. So. CD Projekt Red they've made a bit of a habit of releasing a really, really great game that just kind of isn't quite there yet. Not in the same way that like No Man's Sky or like any of these other games that have this redemption arc story do, but definitely in a similar way. And I would say my impressions are there's something really, really special in Cyberpunk 2077, and I think it has the potential to be freaking amazing. I really like the time I'm spending with it, but it is really inconsistent, and it would be hard for me to recommend to people, especially on who are stuck on, base consoles or even just normal PCs, especially now that like Series X and PS5 are just really hard to come by. That's a pretty big factor in all this.
Yeah, it's worth noting that I think originally, even in the initial delays, that they were trying to get the PS5 version out, like the native PS5 version out at the same time. And then I think eventually they were like, we can't do this. And so those versions, like the native versions, come out next year, and I think that's what I'm going to do is just wait.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because as you said, like games like this don't really. First of all, I've totally forgot. I think you're right. Witcher 3 was totally fucked on PC. That scratched something in my mind that I hadn't thought about in 5 years. But
yeah, it did not launch well. and that's like a critical darling now, and I have no doubt. Based on what I've played so far, that like, oh yeah, this is going to be like a really incredible like benchmark title in like the coming months or the coming years, however long it takes to really get to that point. Even though the next gen version isn't out yet, it does take advantage. The base versions do take advantage of, or the base versions of the game still do take advantage of the hardware. If you're on PS5 or Xbox Series X, it still kind of enhances it a little bit. Load times are faster, and like the frame rate is significantly better. So it does benefit from that. But yeah, the next generation like native version isn't coming out for a while.
Right. So my plan, unless I just really lose patience, is I'll just wait for that, because at that point it'll go through certification again, and then it'll be fixed, and who knows, maybe even have some DLC attached to it or whatever. But I do agree with what you're saying twofold. First of all, I was pretty blind about this too, and the game really struck me in looking at some of the gameplay that's been making the rounds. I'm like, this is kind of like Grand Theft Auto-ish in some way. And then the second thing that I was thinking of, and just in a little bit, obviously it's much deeper. And then the second thing is that it's more aesthetically attractive than I think that I was giving it credit for. Not in terms of its actual graphical flair, but just in terms of its aesthetic. Like Cyberpunk, much like steampunk, can be very samey and very boring very quickly. And to do it at the level that, like, say, Blade Runner does it is pretty tough.
Yeah.
And they seem to have captured the neon, the grit, all of that. I was reading an interesting story on Kotaku that I thought was funny, actually. I don't read Kotaku and agree with very much of what they say, but I did think this was funny, that apparently when you make your character in the game, you can't after that change the character, which I was like, that's weird, because that's what Cyberpunk's all about, is like just doing whatever you want to yourself, like modulating and modifying and adding and subtracting. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But
yeah, it is very, yeah, there's some aspects of it that aren't necessarily as fleshed out as I thought they would be. I think as an RPG, it's not necessarily as fleshed out as it could be. But I think the Grand Theft Auto comparisons you brought up are actually pretty accurate. I think it feels like a really, really incredibly immersive, like Grand Theft Auto meets like Deus Ex meets like a little bit of that like kind of Skyrim kind of go wherever quality. And I think it's really solid. Like I have somebody who's like, again, like you, was very blind, not really looking forward to this. I kind of like looked at all the hype and was like, this is ridiculous. This game's probably going to be fine, you know? And, you know, I was playing and I was like, man, they really nailed the immersion factor here. Like Night City feels like a real place, even with all these bugs, which has me all the more excited to come back to this game in the future when it's like, I'm still going to play through it now because I think at its core it's really good, but man, this is definitely going to be something really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it more now than I was a few days ago, but you're right in the sense that I was just I still am so tired of hearing about this game that definitely does diminish it a lot for me, but we'll talk about it in a little while in the news, the second news segment, because I think they got a hit. I think that's going to be bigger than The Witcher already for them. At least it's on track to be that. So we'll save that for later. But thank you for giving us that update. And I know a lot of you out there are playing it as well. For me, Chris, I've been playing 2 games. So I started when we talked about it a little bit last week, but Bugsnax, I beat it and platinumed it. This game it's an interesting game. I don't know. First of all, I was reading the Wikipedia article about it a few days ago, and it was described as an adventure game. Do you agree that it's an adventure game? I don't agree with that at all.
I thought
that was a. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I played very little of it, so I don't know. In the beginning, it felt like it could be going that way with like the meeting in the detective office and, you know, just venturing to like an island. That's it. As a premise, it sounds very adventure-y, but I haven't played enough to really say if the game as a whole is an adventure game.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Monkey Island or something like that, but it like, I just thought that was surprising because it's much more interactive than that. See, here's the thing that I liked about Bugsnax is that it makes me feel smart because I'm not very good at puzzle games. We've talked about this before. I have no patience for them. I have no patience for puzzles. Like when something, you remember when The Witness came out and that was like the rage for a little while. And I was like, I remember seeing that. I'm like, there's fucking no way that I'm playing The Witness. And I was like, there's just no way I'm even going to bother trying to play The Witness. You know, remember people like, you have to like line up the camera angles and all. It's like, oh my God, I would rather fucking eat a bullet than do that. Right. So Bugsnax is interesting because it's like a little puzzle game where you're trying to capture, you know, it's Pokemon Snap kind of thing where you're trying to capture these animals, but every one of them has like just a tiny little puzzle attached to them about how you're supposed to capture them. And some of them are like really simple and some of them aren't. And I was able to capture all of them but one. So there's 100 of them. I captured 99 without looking up any help. And I was pretty proud of myself because even though it's a game that's not very hard, I'm like, I don't usually have the patience for this. I try something once, then I'm like, fuck it. I'll go on Power Picks and look up how to do this so I can move on with my life. But I didn't do that with Bugsnax. And so I did like that. I will say the vocalization in the game, like the voice acting and the writing, it's really good. I think that it overstays its welcome and the story does get weird at the end. And the big thing is that I was expecting, we were talking about this when we discussed the game last week, was I was expecting something allegorical in the game. And I don't know that it really exists. And I found an article about this. I don't remember where it was from. It might've been from Polygon or something where they were saying like, it's not really about anything. It seems like it's going to be about something, and I think that it's supposed to be about something, but I couldn't quite interpret what it was. So it was a fun gameplay experience. I wish it was almost just this cute bug collecting game. It would have almost been cooler that way. Yeah. Where you do like little side quests for these cool characters, but there's not supposed to be some sort of existential weird thing in the game that's like underlying it all, almost this feeling of dread and uncertainty. So I recommend it. It's easy to recommend because it's free for PlayStation Plus subscribers. And then the other game I wanted to talk about was The Pathless, which has come up in this show. Remind me, Chris, did you play this game?
Mm-hmm, yeah. I played a little bit of it. I didn't finish it.
Okay, because I thought so, because I remember bringing it up, and I don't remember if we. I feel like we did discuss it, so I'm remembering it right. Sydney Linders wrote into us on Patreon and says, "Dear Nicholas and Christopher, I don't know what about me? Who's Nicholas?
Yeah, wait, what? Wait, what? Is this the right podcast?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, are you writing?" He says, "I recently started playing The Pathless after you talked about it in this show. I was already interested, but not really planning to play it because all the AAA games are coming out these months. But then I was fortunate with the birth of my first son and getting a PS5 in the same week. Although I'm lucky to get the PS5 on release, I don't have much time to play games in which I really need to invest in. Therefore, I thought to give The Pathless a try. And to my delight, it's an amazing game. It's perfect to play when you have only a short time for play sessions. As you already mentioned, it has Mystery of Journey, puzzles like The Witness, and bosses like Shadow of the Colossus. I really recommend to play it before it lands in your backlog pile. It would be a pity if you miss it. Keep up the good work. So, Chris, I know you would discuss playing it and that you enjoyed it, and he was mentioning your various references, which I think are spot on, especially the Journey one. And it really reminds me a lot of you because it when I play it, I'm like, this seems like a game that Chris describes all the time.
Yeah.
Because it has the kinetic energy and quickness of something, and then it's got stylized graphics, which you bring up all the time. It's beautiful, but it's not realistic, all of that.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, Chris, there's something in this game, and since you have played it, you'll be able to recognize what I'm talking about. There are these storms, these red storms throughout the map.
Oh,
so
yeah.
for people that don't know, by the way, the Pathless is this kind of open world, very minimalist game where you're trying to like free this land of this evil power. There's no words in it really. There's like no descriptions of anything. It almost reminds me of Hyper Light Drifter in a way, which was actually too obtuse for me, but in 3D. And so there are these storms, and when you get close to these red storms, I don't think I've ever been drawn back in a good way by a graphical effect of a game as when the storm is coming and then it overtakes you.
Yeah.
Like you see it coming. It's beautiful. It's stunning how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
And I gotta highly recommend this game. I wish it was a little more directed. I don't like when games don't have maps and shit like that. Like, talk to me a little bit. Talk to me a little bit.
Yeah. That was kind of like, I knew that I was going to get distracted by it. This is definitely a game that I really want to come back to, but I knew that with like Cyberpunk coming, I was like, all right, I gotta like just get myself in a mode to play this and just focus on Cyberpunk for a while, and especially with like also Destiny 2 coming out and with the new patch and all that. But this is definitely a game I'm going to come back to. But I stopped playing for that reason, where I got to a point and I was like, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and I just didn't really have the time to figure it out myself. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to put this down and do something else, or like work or something. But yeah, I agree. I wish it was a little bit more. At the very least, you could like press a button and it would like highlight, like point you in a direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You press the triangle or R1 and it shows you just these red things in the distance. They're not there when you're looking normally. And basically what you're trying to find are these gold emblems to unlock these towers. Like, you're just doing this over and over again. It's interesting. The studio that made this game is Giant Squid. They're the guys that back in 2016, I want to say, did the game Abzu. And Abzu didn't connect with me so much. It was a game that a lot of people liked, but I was sad in looking at the trophy list for the Pathless. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are playing this game. It seems like this game totally slipped by the goalie, and it sucks because there's almost not that much to play on PlayStation 5 right now. It's on PS4 as well, but I'm a little confused why this game's not getting more attention. Because when I was playing it, I was like, well, why isn't anyone talking about this?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I knew it was special when I saw it. And like we said, I bought it day one because I wanted to support them because I didn't want the price to drop. I feel like you might be in that territory now, maybe in January where the price does drop. It just doesn't seem like a lot of people are playing it. And one of the comparisons that I'm surprised isn't being made for this game more is it also has, I think, pretty deep Breath of the Wild energy. Especially with the nature of the puzzles. Like, it feels like some of the simple puzzles from Zelda.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's keeping those comparisons from being made are the litany of games that are a little bit more on the nose. Like Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is another game that I downloaded that I'm trying to play over the course of after I finished Cyberpunk, because I've heard
that game looks cool.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, even though it does look like very largely like a Zelda ripoff. It's one that I really do want to play. But yeah, like that one has like a lot more in common with Breath of the Wild, and I think Genshin Impact was another one that looked like a lot like it. Whereas this one, like, it's definitely stylized and it has a lot of those elements. But I think because it doesn't look as much like Breath of the Wild, it's not being compared to. But like I do think you're right. There are some just the openness of the world and the stylized graphics do like evoke a lot of Breath of the Wild's energy, I think. Those storms, man. God damn, I love those storms.
Oh, dude, the storm. I mean,
so fucking harrowing.
I was seeking them out to like just try to do, because it's incredible. Like, the way the atmosphere changes as you're getting close to it and you can't really outrun it. Feels a little bit like Death Stranding. Yeah. But way cooler in that regard. That's Death Stranding, I think. I really, really was impressed with that. I love that. All right, let's see here. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. Jesse Lawrence wrote into us and said, "Hey, Colin, I need Chris to hear that you thought the stamina bar on Shadow of the Colossus was the enemy aggression bar. Take care, guys." So
wait, what?
So Knockback is the show. For people that don't know, I do a retro and nostalgia podcast with my brother every week. We did Shadow of the Colossus recently, and I was telling him that because the game doesn't explain anything to you.
No, it doesn't.
So I played it over like 2 or 3 sessions. I really liked it, and I had some problems with it, but the little yellow, what is the stamina bar, it doesn't really come into any focus for you until you're on or fighting one of the colossi, in which case it like starts to engage.
Yeah.
And I just, for some reason, just locked it into like, oh, when the Colossus is like getting mad, the yellow thing starts. Because what I was basically saying was like, when I'm grabbing onto it, it's getting upset, right? When I let go of it, it stops getting upset. And that's what I thought, but it's like it was not aggression; it was just stamina.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, I thought that was weird.
That's pretty cool. I love that. I love hearing things like that. Just like how different people like read UI. That's not really, because that game really does. That's one of those few games where like there's not really a lot to do in that game. So it's like a lot of games like where there's a lot to do. It's kind of like, oh man, I really don't like not having a goal or like knowing where to go, but in that game it's so minimalist that it's almost fine. But and you can actually hold your sword up and actually guide yourself, so it's actually not that bad. But I remember I played that entire game and beat it, and I had such a hard time because, and you're probably in this too, but that's a game like where you have to kill these like salamanders to get more stamina. They're these little lizards running around, like you can see every now and again. And when you kill them, you can pick them up, and it increases your stamina. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is, but like I didn't know that until like years after I finished it, and I realized that I beat that game with like the lowest possible stamina. I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, I was the same way. I picked 1 or 2 of them up, but didn't really know what they were doing.
Yeah,
and the same thing with the fruit. I didn't find the fruit until pretty late in the game, either.
Wow.
So
now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever seen the fruit.
Yeah, there's like fruit that grows on trees, and that gives you more health. Although the game's not, like, from a health standpoint, the game's pretty generous, so I wasn't too worried about it there. But
yeah,
but nonetheless, I thought it was
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is funny, like you said, like when a game doesn't tell you anything, what can you glean from it? And I gleaned something appropriate from it. I just was reading the reaction wrong. It was actually in the inverse. So
yeah,
fairly strange. But yeah, Jesse wanted you to know, so now you know. All right, let's get into the news now.
Yeah.
As I said at the top, we're going to do this a little bit differently because there's a bunch of other news that's not video game award related. So there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, probably like a dozen things or so worth bringing up here. And we could talk as much or as little as you feel like is necessary. But before we do get into that, at the top, I said we'll do a Sacred Symbols Plus episode about award shows, but just based on this award show, how do you think it was? And just as an overall thing, did you think it was worthwhile? I felt like it dragged quite a bit. Personally.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I just thought like it was way longer than it needed to be. There were some points where I was just like, okay, so this is and here's The Last of Us presenting the Last of Us award to The Last of Us, and it's like, all right, well, if The Last of Us is going to win this many times, you might as well just kind of, you know how they used to do like, and Last of Us also wins, they used to do that. It's like also Last of Us also wins like best motion captured guitar, or stuff like that. Like it would always say that like after it won like a big award, but it seemed like they kept a lot of those smaller things that they would normally just save for when a game won a big award, and then just like have a whole like 5 minutes dedicated to it. And it was just like, all right, well, this is dragging a little bit, but overall, I was happy to see some games get recognition that they probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten. I was happy to see Among Us up there, game made by 4 people that's just like completely dominating right now. Pretty amazing. Accessibility was highlighted, and all that stuff. It was cool. I thought overall it was good. It just could have stood to be a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I think that the length, I think maybe 2 hours would have been appropriate. It went like 2:45 or so.
Yeah, 2
Plus,
hours.
I think there was like a pre-show. Yeah, 2 hours I think would have been ideal. Even shorter, I think would have been Good. I thought Geoff did a really nice job. I think he gets a little too into the moment sometimes. I get it. I've been in front of cameras and reading teleprompters, and you do kind of start to get a little smiley and a little goofy. And I'm sure he's been this. I don't want to say his whole life leads up to this event, but a lot of his life leads up to this event. So I'm sure there's a lot of each year. So I'm sure there's a lot of energy going into it and a lot of.
I like his goofiness, honestly. Like I think it makes it seem more approachable to me. Like it's just like, oh, here's just this guy who just really loves this stuff. You know?
He really does. I mean, I think he authentically does love it, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he's in it for I think he makes a lot of money, but I don't think he's like in it for the money, and I don't think there's anything like that. A long way from the Dorito Pope. It seems like
I always thought that was so unfair. I always
I thought so too, but I always did too, but I always felt like still there was a lot of people that didn't like him, and I feel like a lot of people don't really have that much trash to talk about him now, which is nice. The one thing that I wanted to call up was the fake applause.
Yeah.
Was this supposed to be ironic? I couldn't quite get if it was supposed to be like a deep irony thing or what.
I don't know. Like it Sweeney was like, because I was watching it with Sweeney, he was streaming and I was just like watching it with him. But like he brought it up and he was like, oh, like you know, or his chat brought it up because he was streaming and it was like, oh, who's applauding? And I was like, yeah, I wasn't thinking about that because I was thinking more from just like a presentation and editing standpoint that it would be it's an award show and it would feel so awkward to just go from like a trailer to just like slowly panning up to a presenter to the point where it's almost like the award, like the applause was the most natural sound that they could use to transition from one segment to another, which comes across as like super disingenuous. But I wouldn't be surprised if the intention was just literally just like, this is just the most natural sound that we have, and it's the least jarring way to make this flow right. That's what it felt like to me anyway. But yeah, it was a little bit weird that we just knew that there wasn't an audience, but we still heard clapping. Like, I totally get it. It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, it's the same thing that's happening in sports right now. You kind of, once you tune into it, you can't unhear it in some way, which is too bad. But
it'd be so weird to watch a sporting event where it's just completely, you know what I mean? Like it would be
sure.
it would almost be a harrowing experience.
Well, we're so accustomed
to
the sights and the sounds of these different things that it wasn't a big deal, but I just didn't know if it was done for irony's sake. I doubted that it was, but otherwise I wanted to say that two things, I guess. One is that I kind of felt bad for the Game Awards this year because just coincidentally Disney was doing its like investors call, I think, or whatever, and so they announced like literally 7,000 Star Wars and Marvel Disney Plus shows and stuff during the Game Awards. Yeah. So I don't think the Game Awards stuff was like even trending compared to like, I don't think it was trending like really at all actually for a little while, which is kind of sad timing, but nonetheless, the stuff's in VOD. And then the other thing is I thought that there was a real trend with this sort of co-op defense Left 4 Dead. And the first game we're going to talk about is a Left 4 Dead type game.
Oh my God, I was so excited.
So yeah, let's get right into it then. Back 4 Blood was the first game shown. This was from Turtle Rock. This game was actually announced in 2019, but we had never seen it before. We knew that they were working with WB as a publisher. Mm-hmm. And of course, Turtle Rock is best known for Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, which came out in 2008 and 2009 from Valve as a publisher. And then they worked with 2K as publisher with Evolve. And then that was in 2015. That didn't last long. And they've been since doing some Oculus stuff. So we found out, well, we saw two things. First of all, we saw the game in action. It looks like Left 4 Dead. And the second thing is that we have a release date of June 22nd, 2021, PS4 and PS5 and elsewhere. This isn't really my type of game, but I must say that it was nice to see it simply because Left 4 Dead was such a phenomenon, and it was almost weird that they left, pardon the pun, but that they left it behind. It was like, what was the point of that? At the same time, I feel like this kind of, it's a little more tired now because of this emphasis on persistence and multiplayer and co-op and stuff that's just seen everywhere. So a lot of this stuff is just starting to blur together in a lot of ways. But this is certainly at the highest rung of production value, no doubt.
Yeah, no, I was enthralled. I was so happy to see it. Just that logo and just like the Back 4 Blood and just seeing a game that looked like a fucking video game again and wasn't trying to be like, hey, here's this world that you can spend your time in. And it's like, yo, I have a world to spend my time in. Like it's the real one that lets me buy these things. Like I don't know, like this emphasis on like living, breathing worlds, like I appreciate it, right? There's some games like Destiny, like I love it, like I get it, but there's only so much room for those things. So I was just so happy to see just like, hey, here's a game where you'll just meet up with your friends and you'll blast some zombies, and that's it. That's what the game is. It was just I love it. Like and they showed gameplay of it, and it just looked like people running around shooting zombies. It wasn't trying to like blow you away with like ray tracing or like like a persistent like a day-night cycle. None of that shit. It was just good old-fashioned, just like, hey, this is gonna be fun, and you're probably gonna have a lot of fun with your friends on this. And I was just so happy to see it.
It looked cool, and I was, I'm happy for Turtle Rock just because they kind of have been out for a while. I mean, they're certainly a far away. They're a decade plus away from their glory days. It's not been necessarily a good road for them. I don't know exactly what happened with them and Valve and all of that. I don't know why they necessarily walked away from Left 4 Dead. Back 4 Blood seems like, especially with the way the iconography is and everything, it's almost, I don't know if they have some deal with Valve, but it almost seems like a dare. And Valve's like to like fuck, to sue or make us think about it. But Valve seems like a cool company that wouldn't do that anyway. But yeah, so Back 4 Blood announced almost 2 years ago, but we've seen it for the first time, and it comes out soon, June 22nd, 2021. Yeah. So only 6 months away.
Yeah,
or so.
I really loved seeing that again. Like even just the emphasis on the characters, like being kind of their own, kind of having their own personalities. Like this nerd was like, "Man, I'm gonna light these bastards up," and it's like I love it. He's just a dweeb in the middle of this like ridiculous situation. I love it. So good.
And at least it doesn't look like Steven Universe characters or Fortnite characters, which is basically everything.
Yeah,
these days.
I did appreciate that they stuck with just it looks as real as it needs to.
It doesn't look like a Rocket Arena.
Yeah.
Or whatever the fuck they
God help us. Battleborn.
The battle. I can't. That one, I mean, that was so obvious that was going to happen to that game. All right. Hood, Outlaws, and Legends. They showed really briefly. They introduced multiplayer, which I don't know, doesn't do anything for me. But for people that don't know, this is a game from Sumo Digital.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the guys that did Little Big Planet 3 and the more recent Sackboy game. And they did Crackdown 3, and they used to work on Forza and a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I think this game looks dope. First of all, just the single player portion of the game. I love Robin Hood. I think Robin Hood's a fucking cool character. And I love this era. So the game comes out May 7th. I don't know exactly. It was saying play early. So I'm assuming you're going to get access to the game maybe a week early if you pre-order it. I don't really know how that's going to work, but
yeah,
I think this game looks dope. Does this game do it? Not just the multiplayer section, which I don't care about, but does this game do anything for you?
I don't know. Like it reminded me a little bit of like For Honor. When I like gameplay wise, and I was like, it looked cool, but I also like, I don't know, like it didn't do anything for me necessarily. Only because like what I saw was like a multiplayer thing. Like I haven't seen the single player parts at all because they didn't really showcase that. I didn't even realize this was a thing. Like so that they dropped this trailer for like, hey, it's multiplayer. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I'm a little confused about it because I know that it's supposed to be like PvP, PvE or whatever.
Right.
But I was under the assumption that it was single player focused first, but maybe not. I mean, maybe that wasn't the case at all. I don't know, but I think the game looks really cool. I think that even if it's multiplayer centric, I'm probably gonna have to give it a go because I got a soft spot for Robin Hood. So
that's fair.
Just love that character. All right, this one, I'm really excited to get your take on this. This might be the most intriguing one. In fact, when they were showing this game, I said aloud to myself, I'm in my house by myself, but I was like, is that Dead Space?
No, I said the same thing.
Yeah, and it makes sense why. It's the Callisto
right?
Protocol. This is from a studio called Striking Distance, and Glenn Schofield is the co-founder of this studio. Now, the connection here to Dead Space is that Glenn Schofield was the executive producer of Dead Space at Visceral. Before that, he was at IDOS, and then later on, he founded and was the co-director of Sledgehammer. So this is a single-player, third-person survival horror game. It takes place in the 2300s. Callisto, of course, is a moon of Jupiter. So that's where it is, 2022, PS5. They just said console, so I assume it's PS5. I'm down, man. I mean, Schofield going back to what he's best known for, just that one go at Dead Space, which was more than 10 years old now. I thought it was really interesting of his involvement because it looked like Dead Space. So
yeah, it's crazy. Like I leaned over to my roommate. I was like, "Yo, is this Dead Space?" Because I saw it's like just the atmosphere was really oppressive, and it looked like a survival horror thing. Also, like initially, like just from the get go, but the main character had like a module on his neck that looked like the health bar from Dead Space, which is exactly how like it used to be displayed in Dead Space 1, and I'm pretty sure in the rest of them also. But I remember thinking like, wow, this is probably Dead Space, and that's pretty sick. And I was like, oh no, it's the Callisto Protocol, whatever. And then they brought him back. It's like, oh yeah, no, it is basically Dead Space. So I'm pretty pumped about it. It feels like there was a trend. Maybe it's a small trend, but Turtle Rock going back to like what their bread and butter is, and this dude going back to what he clearly like knows really well. It felt like a year where just people are just kind of being like, hey, we're really good at this, we should do this, and I'm totally happy with it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I don't know. Well, let me back up. Glenn Schofield is a big name. He mentioned that this team's more than 100. That's a big AAA team.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money to make a game like this. So I'm interested to see how this all turns out. And you know me, I'm a big fan of titles. When a title is good, I think the Callisto Protocol is a great title for a game. Just wanted to throw that out there. Very intriguing. Protocol is a good name. It's a good word. So really looking forward to this. Striking Distance is also a great name for a studio. So I'm really looking forward to this one. We don't really know much else about it, but 2022. It
was just a CG trailer, but like it was gorgeous. Like the spit coming off that thing is, oh my God.
It's very cool. Very, very cool. So we'll keep an eye out on that moving forward. Next up is Open Roads from Fulbright. Annapurna is publishing this. I was a little surprised by that because I didn't think that Fulbright would really need a publisher at this point, but nonetheless, Annapurna is publishing this. Fulbright, of course, they're known for Gone Home, which came out in 2013, and then Tacoma, which came out in 2017. We didn't get Gone Home on PS4 until 2016. Tacoma didn't come to PS4 until 2018. I happen to be a really big Fulbright fan. I'm a big fan of these games, especially Gone Home, but I really like Tacoma as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Open Road speaks to me. I'm super stoked about it. Now, what's interesting about it is that Kerry Russell and Caitlin Dever are doing the voices. So now maybe this is where the Annapurna money and connections comes in, because of course Annapurna is first and foremost a film house, not a game publisher. So does this do anything for you? You're not really a fan of these kinds of games, but I'm wondering if this did anything for you.
It didn't do really all that much for me. I like the animation though. Like I like the art style of it quite a bit. Like that was the main thing that I was like, oh yeah, maybe if this is like if I find my way across this and find myself compelled to play this, then yeah, I'll give it a shot. And the art style is probably going to be the main reason why, because I just thought it was like really good looking, and striking and kind of unique, even though it kind of also had very clear influences. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I'm not necessarily that big on these like kind of Gone Home type games necessarily, unless they've got something more to them. If I'm gonna play this game, I got to see more, than what we saw.
Sure. Well, I like that they keep kind of reinventing themselves. I think Gone Home is its own thing. It was unique at the time. I remember playing it on PC at the encouragement of a friend, and I was just blown away by it. And then Tacoma, I thought was really interesting because it was really different. It was a totally different idea about like kind of looking at people's memories and things that had happened in that space and all of that. So I'll be interested to see how Open Roads kind of evolves that. Kerry Russell being in it's interesting just because you're probably a little too young, but there was a show called Felicity. Do you remember this show?
No.
By chance? There was a show, it was in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was on WB. It was called Felicity. That's the show she became famous off of, and it was about a girl who was like in love with this guy, and he went off to college, so she basically followed him to college, and it was like a really interesting show. And then this Caitlin Devers girl, I knew the name, and I had to look her up. I know she's one of the daughters on Last Man Standing, which is that Tim Allen sitcom. That's actually really funny. I like Tim Allen a lot. I'll be the first to admit I love Tim Allen. So
right.
So that's where I know her from. So anyway, there's that. If you're Fulbright fans out there. Now, this next one I wanted to discuss, Chris, I was surprised by. This was this Disco Elysium, the final cut coming to PS4 and PS5, March 2021. Now, you know when you feel like you know something and you're surprised when you don't know it? I could have sworn Disco Elysium is already on PlayStation, but it isn't. And it made me wonder, why the fuck did we talk about this game like 7 times on the show already? I don't understand how this even... Didn't we talk about this game like a bunch of times?
Yeah.
And it's not even on PlayStation? How did that... It's one of those things where I'm like, why didn't anyone say anything to me about this?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought it was on it too. Like, are we having like a Mandela effect thing here? Because I could have sworn it was. Like, I would have genuinely bet money. Like, if somebody was like, "Oh, Disco Elysium's not on PlayStation," I would have been smug and been like, "Yeah, okay, I'll bet you $500 it is."
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, I'm gonna go just to make sure. I'm going to PSN profiles. I'm just gonna look up the word disco. Yeah, it's not on here. There are Laser Disco Defenders, Disco Dodgeball Remix, Starship Disco, but yeah, nothing for Disco Elysium. So I could have sworn it was. I don't know why we were talking about this game, but nonetheless, it is coming to PS4 and PS5 March 2021. Do you know how to say the studio name? It's ZA/UM, all capital letters.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. But do you care? I don't care about this, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard it's great, and maybe if it's on PS Plus at some point, yeah, I'll give it a shot. But like, I don't really know. Like RPGs are already like kind of not necessarily my big genre, so and especially like with these where it's like kind of like isometric and I don't know. Like I'm not. I got to be really compelled.
Sure, I feel the same way. I mean, I do respect that apparently the game can be played like almost however you want, which is cool, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
All right, the next one they showed, Chris, was they just showed Dragon Age.
Yeah, just Dragon Age.
Yeah, and so this is the 4th Dragon Age game, I think, right? I think so. Maybe I think it's the 4th one.
Yeah, because
I don't
it's Dragon Age Origins, then it's Dragon Age 2, then Dragon Age Inquisition.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is now, I don't want to jump the gun, but this is, they showed 2 BioWare IP like this. And I'm so skeptical of Dragon Age because, especially Mark Darrah's gone now. I don't know. I feel like EA almost felt like they needed to show something of both of these games. The other game is Mass Effect, which we'll talk about later, but I just feel it was almost a little strange because I almost feel like it was forced. Like, what are you showing us here? We know this game's coming. I don't understand. And then a few days ago, they were like, I'll save that for later. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mind seeing Dragon Age because obviously it felt like they had more to show from that. It looked like there was at least more of, like, it looked like it was further along. But it bothered the hell out of me at the end when they showed Mass Effect. Because I was really excited about it, and I thought it was like, oh, this is going to be like the Mass Effect collection, right? Or like, that's going to be cool, right? It's going to be cool to get like a proper confirmation and like maybe see what this looks like. But instead it just said, Mass Effect will continue.
Yeah.
And it's like, no shit. Obviously, it's like your biggest thing. It's bigger than Dragon Age, I'm pretty sure. So obviously,
definitely.
So obviously it's going to continue. Don't show me something and just say like, oh, it reminded me of fucking Elder Scrolls. Immediately, like the second I was like, oh, it's just like Elder Scrolls 6 exists, and it's like, okay, cool, we know that. Don't show me something like that unless like unless you have a pretty good idea of when this thing is gonna be out. Like if they had showed that in like Mass Effect 5 or Mass Effect whatever title you wanted to call it, and they were like, oh, 2022. At the very least, I could have been like, okay, well, that's cool. There's at least some kind of... At least I have some expectation of, like, how long I'll have to wait. But this could be, like, 5 years away. It's insane.
Yeah, I think the weirder thing about it, too, was that, like, they just said that Mass Effect was coming back a few days ago.
Yeah.
So we already knew that it was happening. So the only thing that so we'll jump ahead to the end here because Mass Effect is how they ended. The only thing that was significant about this is that they showed the N7 logo. So they're going back to whatever, to the Milky Way, as it were, getting out of Andromeda, I guess. And So that was significant, but yeah, I agree with you. And I'll say this, for the first 20 seconds, I was like, this is Starfield, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up. I was like, oh, this is Starfield. I said that aloud too. And I was,
I mean,
it wasn't.
Yeah. I just mean the way that it was presented. Like, how it just showed the logo Elder Scrolls, and then, it just faded out. Right. It was very similar. But like, yeah, the second it started, I was like, oh, this is, I don't know why I picked this up, because there was nothing particularly, noticeable about it or particularly iconic about it. But the second that trailer started, I was like, oh, this is Mass Effect. And then the ship came up, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not, because that doesn't look like a Mass Effect ship. And then, like, obviously, like, the N7 thing came up, and I was like, oh, cool. And then it was a roller coaster, that trailer, because I was just like, oh, yay, oh, no, oh, yay, oh, no.
Yeah, I'm so confused by the whole approach with it was EA. BioWare didn't do it. First of all, EA is all over the show.
Yeah.
Not only with advertisements, but with the games, so that's interesting. But
EA Play.
Yep, EA. There was EA Play ads, plus we're going to talk a little bit in a little while about the next game from the Hazelight guys and stuff, so I do feel like there's something strange about the way they're handling these BioWare things. I don't know if they just want to be like, no, we're not going to close the studio down. Because I think that some people think that's going to happen. I don't think it's necessarily an unreasonable expectation at this point. Not because of BioWare as much as because of EA's history, which is shutting studios down. But
yeah,
nonetheless, they showed these things off. We'll see how it all goes. But I could really give a shit about Dragon Age at this point. And Mass Effect.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I hope it's good, but like, I have no reason to expect that it would be.
Right. Know? It's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right. They showed a couple of other things here. I'm just going through my notes. They showed Endless Dungeon, which is a new game from Amplitude. That's a Sega studio. They showed Crimson Desert, which is a Pearl Abyss game. That's a South Korean studio, so that's kind of cool. Those are the guys that did Black Desert Online. It's like an action MMO.
It's a gorgeous looking game that runs at like 15 frames per second.
Yeah, well, I think people were complimenting the gameplay because it was really in game, because it was framey.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting, but I don't know. I always get a little confused by that, because it is kind of appealing and interesting, but it almost shows like you don't really give a shit at the same time. Like, I don't want to see your game running at 15 frames a second. It is pretty, but
yeah.
I don't need to see that. So, but nonetheless, it was cool to see South Korean devs get in on this winter 2021 for that. Black Desert Online is already on PS4, so if you want to play their previous game, you can do that. All right, this next one is interesting. This game is called Season.
Yes.
Sony is not publishing it, but it is a PS5 exclusive, or at least it was positioned like this. It's from a studio called Scavengers, which I couldn't find anything about, but they did a game called Darwin Project, which is apparently some sort of semi-popular weird battle royale game. Yeah. I don't really know anything about it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, talk to me about this. What do you think of this game?
No, I just remember seeing it, and I was just thinking, wow, this is really gorgeous. In like a way that's so specific and unique to this, even though it doesn't look like it is. Like I was looking, I was like, oh, it's just like landscapes and like long vistas and like beautiful sunsets and shit. And I was like, even though like all of those things are super common, I was like, I still felt like it was my first time seeing something like that. I don't know what it is about that art style, but it's like, it's really captivating and really gorgeous. And, I thought the premise was really interesting. Like the idea of like, oh, my grandparents lived for 1,000 years and my parents had a century, and like, oh, we're only going to be alive for like the season. I thought that was a very like Studio Ghibli kind of fantastical premise. And like, yeah, I don't know what the game is or like what the fuck is going to be, but like the everything about it, from the premise to the visuals to the art style to just like the tone, just looks really, really cool and unique and just I'm totally about it.
It does look cool. I was interested in its positioning as a PS5 exclusive, again, with no Sony logo. It's not a second party game. It could be a third party exclusive. It could also be that the studio is just aiming for that console. They're a Quebecois team. They're a pretty tiny team, it seems like. I don't know why that was that they positioned it like that, but within the realm of PlayStation exclusives that we know about for the next console so far, or this console, I should say now, it's totally aesthetically different. So that in and of itself was really appealing to me, just because it's not more of like whatever dark grit and photorealism. It was just something different. So,
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm all about it.
All right, next up after that, they showed Arc 2, Colin Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I will say two things. One, I thought this was Horizon for a minute when I was watching it because the little girl looked like Aloy. Plus, it's like the total Horizon aesthetic. I can't be the only one that thought it was.
No,
Horizon
it totally did. Like I was even more off than you. Like when that little girl peeked out from behind the flower and it she was like out of focus. I was like, oh, it's Zero from Holes. Like it looked exactly like Zero from Holes. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about you, but my roommate and I were watching this, and I couldn't stop saying out loud, "Why does this trailer look so stupid?" Like it wasn't about the premise. It wasn't about like dinosaurs or like tribesmen or even like Vin Diesel's like awkwardly mocapped face. Like the animation felt really stupid, and like the fight choreography felt like really just impactless. I was stunned watching this trailer because I was like, wow, this is such a clearly expensive trailer that just looks so unfathomably amateur, and I don't know why.
All right, so Studio Wildcard is interesting because the original Ark Survival Evolved came out in 2017. By the way, Ark 2 is aiming for 2022. But I was always under the impression that the game wasn't about the lore or the story. It was about like the world and like kind of surviving in that world.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but Ark 2 seems to introduce some sort of plot or narrative. I'm sure there's something there in the original one, but like, I guess what I'm wondering is like, why did you need Vin Diesel? I didn't think the game was about, I thought it was about like fighting dinosaurs and shit. I guess I was just a little confused.
No, yeah, it is.
Because Vin Diesel's inclusion is distracting. I like Vin Diesel, but it's distracting. It's just distracting.
You can't not look at him, and it doesn't help that it just doesn't look good because you know what Vin Diesel looks like. Like you've seen him for decades now, and you can just tell something looks wrong because you're just watching this like fake, like CGI food fight looking Vin Diesel, and it's just really weird.
It is weird.
Like I couldn't take my eyes off it, and like there's the moment at the end where like his daughter like sticks her tongue out at a dinosaur, and I'm like, this looks so fucking terrifying in like an uncanny valley way. Like it's the most uncanny valley thing I've seen, and it kind of reminded me, or kind of I guess jolted me into realizing how good we've gotten with kind of facial animations, and maybe that's due to like a pretty large reliance on more cartoony aesthetics over time. But even in that Dead Space trailer, I was like, this looks great. Or the what is it? Callisto Protocol trailer? I was like, wow,
right.
That's a really impressive animation. I thought that was real. And like all these other games that look pretty great or look really stylized, and you just see this, and you just see Vin Diesel, and it really is just wildly distracting, like to the point where I think Vin Diesel's inclusion genuinely just makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't know if I disagree. I just because the game, like I like the whole idea of the game. I think it's if I'm interpreting it correctly, and so yeah, I just didn't know him. I was like, why is he here? But then they introduced the animated series for Arc 2, which looks cool. But
yeah,
I guess it just suggested to me, I was like, maybe this is just way bigger than I thought it was. Like. Maybe Ark is just a bigger IP than I had realized because they got Vin Diesel and they're getting an animated series. I just, so maybe I'm just misinterpreting it completely, but
I thought it was Turok.
That would have been cool as shit because isn't there a Turok? Wasn't there rumors that there was a Turok game in development? I know that they re-released a couple of the old Turok games.
Yeah.
On console recently, but I don't know. At least on Switch. Maybe not on PS4, but nonetheless, Arc 2, Vin Diesel's coming out on PS5 apparently on 2022. They didn't actually specifically say consoles, but you have to assume it's a PS5 game.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, the next game they showed is Evil Dead the Game, which is coming out in 2021. This is from Boss Team Games, which is a new team. I couldn't find anything on them. And Saber Interactive, so we talk about them quite a bit. This is based on the Sam Raimi 1981 horror film. And it's got Left 4 Dead vibes, obviously. I thought it was kind of weird, actually, that they're showing both of these games at the same time, just because it seems kind of unfair to the Evil Dead guys. But I'm Geoff doesn't really care, but since this is kind of in your wheelhouse, what did you think of Evil Dead the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I got it looks like it'll be fine. I really love Evil Dead. I love Sam Raimi movies in general. Like I think his directing is just so fucking interesting. But yeah, this did look like Back 4 Blood, but just not as great. And it looks like it could be fun. I just don't know what the hook is here that isn't going to probably be more fleshed out and more engaging in a game like Back 4 Blood, which is like my main kind of holdout, aside from just the Evil Dead license, which admittedly is a fun world to play around in. Maybe it's more narrative based than we're giving it credit for. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know either. It looks cool, but I'm not an Evil Dead fan myself. I'm not going to pretend that I am, but I just thought it was weird that we had like two kind of Left 4 Dead style games in the same show, but that's not Geoff Keighley's concern, I guess. And then after that, they showed what I think looks amazing, which is Returnal. We now have a date for it, March 19th, 2021. People will remember that this is Housemarque's second-party PlayStation 5 exclusive game, and we've never seen a game like this from Housemarque. Now, I have a theory about this game, which is that this is the guts of Stormdivers. You'll remember that Stormdivers was going to be that battle royale they were going to make, and then they canceled it, or they kind of walked away from it. I'm wondering if any of that is in Returnal, because it just looks so much different than everything else Housemarque does. But I got to say, it looks like it has that same spirit. It's not a twin stick shooter because it's in 3D mostly. Well, true 3D. It's really a third-person game now, or a third-person action game, action shooter, which is different than their usual twin stick games. Think Stardust, think Resogun, etc., Dead Nation, and so on and so forth. But I think this game looks really promising, really fun. And hey, we got a date again, March 19th. So that's going to be the next PlayStation exclusive of consequence. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wasn't sure what I was looking at, really. I feel like this is a game that I would further, like I would better understand if they had like a development blog post to kind of like explain a little bit more of what I was looking at, because it just sort of looked like another kind of third-person shooter. Like, I know that there's like different aspects to it. It looked to me like immediately what I thought of was like, oh, it looks like Risk of Rain 2, but like serious and gritty, and just a little bit like with a closer-up camera and just like realistic graphics and shit. But yeah, I don't know if I really understand what the hook is.
I don't know if we know yet either what it is. I think it's just I think it's roguelike, and I think it's like I think it's very similar to Housemarque's usual thing. I think it's like in terms of like doing something over and over and over again and getting better and better and better at it. But instead of it being an arcade game, the whole idea of the Returnal, I guess, is like this Groundhog's Day situation that the protagonist is in. That's how I understand it.
Yeah. I'm watching the trailer again. It looks. I just wish I had a better idea of like not what moment to moment gameplay looks like necessarily, but like what it is you're doing. You know, it does look good. It did, like visually, and like it looks like it runs pretty well. And I like that it has like a very cartoony kind of dash. Although I do find that a little bit jarring considering how realistic everything else looks. But yeah, this could be good. I really don't know what to make of it. It's so early, and I know so little.
It is early. It's just really different for them.
Yeah.
First of all, they haven't put out a game in 4 years, so that's number one. Number two is, it's just a totally. I really feel like Stormdivers is in this game.
Oh yeah, I don't think you're wrong. It definitely, even if it's not exactly, it surely must be, because they have no experience working in 3D aside from that botched game or that canceled game. So like on some level, it must have some Stormdivers DNA. But yeah, the thing that fucked me up in the beginning though of that trailer was like I thought it was PT. They had like they had like a PT fake out where they were just like, oh hey, here's a door in the hallway, and I was like, oh, this is PT? What the fuck? And I got really excited, and then I was kind of like immediately kind of like, oh, because I love PT.
I will note that this was Sony's only appearance at the show, was this game.
Yeah.
So interesting. You read into that or not, I don't know. Not that they don't always have a a prominent place at the show, but usually something more than Returnal.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it looks cool. March 19th, 2021, Housemarque, PS5 exclusive. All right. After that, Chris, they showed It Takes Two from Hazelight. These are the guys that did Brothers back in 2013 and more recently the prison escape game A Way Out. This is which came out in 2018. It Takes Two comes to PS4 and PS5 March 26, 2021. So just the next week after Returnal comes out. And just like the other two games that Hazelight did, this is a co-op game. And I thought it was pretty cool, actually. They did this with A Way Out as well, which EA also published. EA is publishing It Takes Two as well. If you buy the game once, it comes with a pass where you can share that pass with a friend, I think, and then play the game together because you need to play it with someone else. So you can only, I think that it just lets you buy the game once, which is kind of nice. So does this do anything for you? I'm not really into co-op games. So, and also this guy that runs the studio kind of rubs me the wrong way. A little bit.
I like him a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, I like it. I like that he's just bizarre. He reminds me of like have you ever seen The Room? It's like that famously bad movie with the dude with like
I've not seen that, no.
Well, the director's the guy who made it is like his name's Tommy Wiseau, and he has just like this bizarre presence and is like it's very weird socially. He's got a weird accent that nobody can really pinpoint. And this guy reminds me like if Tommy Wiseau was like successful and did good things. Like it just like it's almost like seeing an alternate universe where things went very different for that guy, and it's just kind of interesting. I don't know, like these. I'm kind of like you, where like I didn't play A Way Out. I didn't really have anybody to play it with. Also, I just I prefer to just kind of play games alone or with like several of my friends. Never just like I'm not just sitting there with like one of my friends awkwardly on voice chat being like, hey. You want to play this prison escape game, or hey, do you want to play It Takes Two with me and fix our broken relationship? Like, I don't know if that's really something. I don't know if that's a pitch that I could really sell any of my friends on.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. This game looks bizarre. I don't know if it's really for me. I don't know if it's that book really freaks me out. The talking book in that trailer just like really.
Oh yeah.
That guy rubs me the wrong way. Really off-putting, that knockoff SpongeBob caricature that just. This is not okay, but I think the premise is pretty funny. I love the premise of a lot of his stuff. Just the idea, it's like, oh yeah, you're toys until you can figure out how to not hate each other. It's like weirdly. I don't know. I like that premise a lot.
Yeah, it is cute. I actually was reading a little bit about him after they showed the game. I didn't realize he was a filmmaker, like a director first.
Yeah,
and then got into games. So I didn't know that. So. Nonetheless, that comes out again March 26, 2021, PS4 and PS5. And then just a couple of other things they showed. They showed a game called Evil West, which comes to PS4 and PS5 in 2021. What's interesting about this game is that it's from Flying Wild Hog, which is a Polish studio. People might know them because they do the Shadow Warrior games, shooters. And I thought it was interesting because Shadow Warrior 3 doesn't even come out until next year, too. So they're releasing 2 games next year. So they must be growing in size. Focus Home Interactive is publishing it. I've been telling you guys for months to keep an eye on them because they're the next publisher that's coming up. And did this do anything for you, Evil West?
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was going to be like a Van Helsing game at first, and honestly, I think it pretty much is in all but name. But it looks cool from a premise. I think you're a cowboy killing demons and vampires. I like it. I dig it, especially if it's coming from the Shadow Warrior guys, because they definitely know how to make good kind of like really frenetic and really responsive, like middle market kind of first person shooters, and for I guess first person slashers. Are we doing that now?
Yeah, whatever
the hell you want to call it.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of like Red Steel action.
Yeah. I could see them doing a Van Helsing game pretty damn well. So yeah, I'm into it. I got to see gameplay first, obviously. No game, no hype. But
I like that.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. I've heard it like a million times, but. It's a good rule.
That is a good rule. That's why I hate previewing games generally, because who knows what you're really getting. But Evil West 2021. I was actually looking at Shadow Warrior because I never played those games. It actually looks really great. I think I might go back and check those out because I do like those. It's almost like I think we were saying, like it's almost like a pointless shooter.
Yeah. It's not like Serious Sam pointless, but
no, but it's not quite to that level. And then finally was Mass Effect, but we talked about that already. So the only other game that they showed I don't think I'm missing anything that we want to talk about here, is Scarlet Nexus, which we've seen before from Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
And that comes out summer 2021. I think that game looks fucking awesome and really stoked to play that. So we saw that, and then they went into Mass Effect and did the rest of the awards. So I think that that's basically everything. Is there anything I missed?
No,
I wanted to discuss.
No, I think that was it. I was just hoping we would get to talk about Seasons, just because it looks so cool. But
yeah, it does look cool. All right, so it looks like Chris is most excited about Season. I'm most excited, I think, about Callisto Protocol on this list. I'm just looking at my notes here. Yeah, and Returnal.
Yeah,
of course. But when we see more and hear more, we'll talk about those games in more detail. But that's everything that was announced at the Video Game Awards. As far as who won, I think The Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year, but I don't really care. Okay. Let's talk about the rest of the news. And since we're talking about Naughty Dog, let's talk about them first. Number one, Neil Druckmann, arguably Sony's most famous individual developer, has been promoted. In a brief message posted to Naughty Dog's website, Evan Wells, the president of Naughty Dog, revealed that he will now be sharing that title, becoming co-president. He was previously serving in the role of vice president for several years. So that's Druckmann. While Druckmann notes on Twitter that this move won't take him away from writing and creating quite yet, he will be working on cultivating the next group of talent that will ultimately lead Naughty Dog's games. Naughty Dog, founded in 1984, was purchased by Sony in 2001 and is widely considered to be the PlayStation first-party family's most important studio. They are, of course, behind the likes of Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us. Neil Druckmann, who joined Naughty Dog as an intern in 2003, is most prominently known as the co-creator and writer of The Last of Us and its sequel, though his first Naughty Dog game was Jak X, the racing game, in 2005. And he also worked as the lead designer on Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. Evan Wells himself comes from a design background, having joined Naughty Dog in 1998. He's been the studio's co-president for some 15 years and will be sharing the title for the first time since 2016, when the team's previous co-president, Christoph Balestra, retired. Jonathan Turner wrote into us and said, "Hello, Colin, DeBoss Moriarty, and Chris Slim Thug Raygun. My query this fine evening pertains to Mr. Druckmann and his pack of Naughty Dogs. He's now the co-president of, after a well-deserved promotion. What direction do you think they will go in with their next title? And as a fan of their work, what would you like to see them go? Where would you like to see them go if you had a say, as far as tone, art style, sequel, or original IP, game mechanics, etc.? I can understand if they want to take a break from the darker themes they have been exploring between the Uncharted series and The Last of Us 1 and 2. I wouldn't really consider Uncharted dark. But I could also understand if the reason these darker themed games have been so good is because they really found a groove they love from a storytelling perspective and want to continue that. Either way, I'm sure it'll be awesome." So, first of all, Chris, congratulations to Neil Druckmann. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what you make of this news. I mean, it certainly couldn't hurt that days after this happened, he won a bunch of awards, or his studio did. So what do you think about his promotion to co-president of the studio?
I mean, I think it's well deserved. I think he's worked hard for it. I hesitate to even imagine like who else would really, like who else would you put there? After all this time, like I'm sure maybe somebody that none of us know about, but I mean, come on. I think it makes sense. And I think as far as like what Jonathan's asking, I feel like we've answered this quite a bit. Like we've answered this question a lot. As far as obviously, like I'll say it again because I just want to. I have this tendency to speak things into existence. I was even joking throughout the show, like, "Oh man, Tom Holland's reprising his role in this game," and like he shows up like in the middle of the show. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh. And then Nolan North was there, so I was having like an aneurysm.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, it was. I think. I want Naughty Dog to do something that I wouldn't expect from Naughty Dog. I want to see something that looks like, I want to see something that like, I see a game and like I'm seeing a trailer and I'm seeing like the art and the music and the gameplay, and then at the end the splash screen says like Naughty Dog, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's what I want. I don't want another like gritty, realistic, third person action game. I don't want another photorealistic thing. I don't want another gritty thing. I don't want another zombie thing. I want something fucking bizarre. Like if they made like a space, like a cartoony space thing, like I'd be all over it. Because I know that studio has like an insane amount of talent. They could probably make some crazy shit if they weren't necessarily limited by what is supposed to be real.
Well, the reason that I wanted to bring, because I agree with you, we've talked about this before, but the reason I think it's materially different now and worth talking about again is just because Druckmann is not really in the creative pool anymore. I mean, obviously he's directing and still nurturing stuff there, but this to me suggests that he's not directing their next game. And in fact, he's definitely not directing their next game. I think that you can definitely read into that. There's just no way that you can be the president of a studio and direct a game at the same time, a studio of that size anyway. And the other reason that I think it's materially different is I guess with Neil kind of moving on, I think it's, and we talked about this last week with the HBO show for The Last of Us and he's writing it or co-writing it. I think he's kind of out now. And so I don't think, he's obviously has a lot of power and prestige there, but I just think we are going to see something different there. But I think you got to kind of be, at least not so much you, but maybe me, I just careful what we wish for, because they are kind of in their pocket with third person action adventure. And I don't want them to get too far away from that. They're a studio that's constructed to make these games. Yeah, no. So it would be weird for them to just go make something else now. I think whatever they're going to make is going to be realistic. I don't know if it's going to be like a zombie game,
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with, if we're being realistic, they've always made third person action games. Like Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us Part 2. They're all third person action games, and if you want to get real granular about it. I just think that the style needs to change, because I'm totally realistic here. Like I'm being real. If the next Naughty Dog trailer that I see even begins even slightly with like realistic foliage, I'm out. Like I'm so bored. I'm like so bored of it, because I know that studio has such an insane amount of art talent, because that game looks so realistic. And I bet if they just wanted to make something that looks like nothing else, they could do it probably better than most people and probably better than most studios. And it's just kind of bothersome to see a lot of that talent just go to like, oh, I've seen a fern, and a fern doesn't look exactly like that. We need to get the fern looking exactly like a fern. And then they make the fern look exactly like a fern, and it wins Best Fern at the Game Awards. Like, I'm over it. Like, I just want to see those design chops put to something creative and unique, and something that could only come from the minds of the people there. And that's really the main thing. I just want it. I want stylistic evolution and stylistic differentiators between these franchises.
Fair enough.
Because it's getting old hat at this point.
I think you're not alone in thinking that. I think the good news is that we're going to be not going to see this game for a while.
Oh yeah, for sure. It'll be a while.
Whatever it is. I'm sure it's on its way, but we'll have to wait for a little while. Number 2, we talked about this game earlier, but hours before the game launched to the public, CD Projekt dropped a bomb. Its new game, Cyberpunk 2077, has already sold 8 million copies, easily making it one of the year's biggest selling titles before it was even available to readily purchase. So that's all pre-orders. This news came by way of the game's social media feeds, which said in part, quote, even 8 million thank yous isn't enough, end quote, alluding to the long-awaited and much-delayed game's meteoric sales success. Cyberpunk 2077 is currently available on PlayStation 4, and it is playable on PlayStation 5 with PS4 Pro-like upgrades, though a native release of the RPG will have to wait until 2021. So nothing more to really say about that game, I assume, but congratulations to them for selling 8 million copies before it even came out.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Number 3, the recent rumors were indeed true. The Omega Force-developed Musou Persona 5 Strikers is indeed westward bound on PlayStation 4. Word comes by way of the official PlayStation blog, which revealed that it will come to PS4 on February 23rd, early next year. The game had previously been released only in Japan in February of 2020. Persona 5 Strikers is one of many Omega Force-driven so-called Musou games, think Dynasty Warriors, done for other publishers and other IP. Omega Force is, of course, owned by Koei Tecmo. The team has made similar games for Zelda, Dragon Quest, and many others. Atlus is acting as publisher, however, as the owner of the Persona brand. Persona 5 Strikers, as its name suggests, is based upon the events of Persona 5, which launched on PS3 and PS4 in the West in 2017, with the so-called Royal Edition launching on Western PS4s earlier this year. So if you're into that, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Sony has revealed the best-selling games of the PlayStation Network for the month of November, something it does each and every month. However, this time it's a bit unique since this is the first time Sony has PlayStation 5 data to break down. PlayStation 5's top 5 best-selling games on PSN were in order: Miles Morales, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Demon's Souls, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and NBA 2K21. Other notable games include Sackboy: A Big Adventure at 6 and Godfall at 7. So Sackboy outsold Godfall. Over on PlayStation 4, the top 5 best-selling games on PSN for the month were in order: Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Miles Morales, Madden NFL 21, and FIFA 21. So Miles Morales still cruising on PS4. Other notable games include The Last of Us Part 2 at 8, Ghost of Tsushima at 9, God of War at 12, and MLB The Show 20 at 15. PSVR's top 5 best-selling games for the month of November were in order: Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Superhot, Iron Man VR, and Vader Immortal. Mortal Kombat 11 and Borderlands 3 topped the DLC and expansion charts. So nothing... What is that there? Nothing to report here. Number 5, the reformed Telltale Games has checked in with us via social media with a short statement that gives some clarity on what it's up to. For those that aren't caught up, Telltale Games was an adventure game studio founded in 2004 that went belly up in 2018. They trudged along for about half of their lives, though they hit pay dirt with their Walking Dead series, which premiered in 2012. Thus began a period of meteoric growth for the studio as it began to work on franchises ranging from Borderlands and Minecraft to Game of Thrones and Batman. But behind the scenes, the studio was fractured during The Walking Dead's final season, delaying the launch of its final episodes. A Stranger Things game was also canceled. Anyway, fast forward to late 2018 and early 2019, and Telltale lives again, using the same name but with a different corporate governance, workforce, and IP ownership. The big news was that the reformed team was able to finish The Walking Dead, but also begin a new season of The Wolf Among Us, a graphic novel which Telltale had previously dabbled with. Their news statement lets us know that that new season is coming, and that you may have noticed many Telltale games silently reappearing on storefronts, including PlayStation Store. Those include Batman, Monkey Island, Wallace and Gromit, Strong Bad, and others, though they admit that they couldn't get the IP owners on board for full republishing, so some games will be missing. They're also unclear on if The Wolf Among Us 2 will launch in any form in 2021, though, and this is the kicker, they confirm that they are making all of the episodes simultaneously, which is a marked difference from how the old Telltale did business. So, a little bit verbose there, but what we're basically finding out is that Telltale is working on what they've announced, and they're doing it more sustainably.
Yeah.
Which we're happy about.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Are you a Wolf Among Us fan?
I didn't play the original Wolf Among Us. I think I played maybe the first episode. Like Telltale games in general, like I don't know, those types of games don't really grab me in the way that others do. So like, I don't know if there was really much chance. But I will say, like, the episodic nature of these games are the main reasons why I don't play them. Like it's waiting for something to happen when like games are coming out and like, you know, hard drives fill up, and I'm like, well, you know, I haven't played The Wolf Among Us in a while. I'll probably uninstall this. You know, that happens a lot, and I usually don't play these games until they're finished anyway. So, you know, maybe this is definitely like a better. I have a better shot of playing this now that they're making all these episodes at once. I'm sure they'll probably like have this arbitrary release schedule, but I bet it would be a lot more manageable now. Probably like once a week, if that's the case. Which would be cool. Yeah,
I'm totally with you. How many times in my past, Chris, have I thought to myself, man, I'll get to that when it's all out.
Yeah.
And then I just never do. I've literally played The Walking Dead Season 1 and Batman Season 1. That's it. Even though I intended to play almost everything they released.
Yeah.
So
I think that about television shows, honestly. Like I love Breaking Bad, and I'm super pumped for Better Call Saul, but like I watched a little bit of it, and then like, you know, it took a year and a half for the next season to come out, and I'm like, I forgot everything. So I'm just going to wait until this is all done so I can just finish it and watch it sustainably.
That's where I'm at, too. That the whole Netflix model, Amazon model. That's why Hulu is so frustrating, because they do it the old way. And I fucking hate... I mean, it makes sense from a money standpoint, but because when The Handmaid's Tale comes back, it'll be 10 episodes, and that's 2.5 months that I'll have to subscribe.
You have to stay subscribed, yeah.
Right. But nonetheless... we'll have to look forward to what Telltale has in store for us in 2021. And then number 6, really excited to see what you think of this one. If a report from website Deadline is any indication, Metal Gear Solid is finally getting a movie adaptation, and a big star is already attached to the film as protagonist Solid Snake, Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac, who is perhaps best known these days as Poe Dameron from the newest Star Wars trilogy, received critical acclaim for his performance in 2013's Inside Llewyn Davis, as well as 2015's Ex Machina. Interestingly, Sony Pictures is helping to develop the project, which will apparently be directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts. Vogt Roberts is a relative newcomer to film, perhaps best known as the director of 2017's Kong Skull Island. Interestingly, however, he also appears as a character, the film director, in Death Stranding, which was created by Hideo Kojima, who also created the Metal Gear franchise and was its longtime steward before his relationship with IP owner Konami finally soured in 2015. Metal Gear launched in 1987, though it wasn't until 1998 when the franchise was reborn in the form of PS1's Metal Gear Solid that it truly became an iconic series. So what do you think about this casting? Oscar Isaac as a Solid Snake.
I think it works.
Me too.
I think that works pretty well, honestly. Like I bet he could nail it. I wonder. Again, I'm not necessarily all that big on games becoming movies. I think if games are going to be translated to anything, I think television is like a television show is the most appropriate scaling. But Oscar Isaac could play a pretty good Snake, I think. And I think the fact that Kojima is attached to this guy at all is pretty not exciting, but something that's interesting enough in a positive way for me to be interested in this and how it comes out.
Do you think that the connection between this Vogt Roberts guy and Kojima and then Death Stranding, you think that's just a coincidence? Because obviously the Metal Gear Solid picture is not going to have anything to do with Kojima.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a coincidence. I think it's probably likely that it is. But I mean, Kojima's a pretty well-known dude. He could have gotten if he was going to cameo somebody as the film director, I feel like he could have gotten somebody more prolific, or at least with more experience than somebody who only developed Kong Skull Island. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a little weird, right?
Like
weird.
It's a strange thing. It's a strange casting for a person if there wasn't some kind of communication about this beforehand. Like I don't think Kojima's going to be involved in this at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've talked. Like that it would be incomprehensible to me, honestly, that they wouldn't.
Well, Oscar Isaac, we'll see if you ever actually make it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. But because this Metal Gear Solid film has been in on and off for many years, but we'll see how it all goes. So congratulations to him. And then finally, number 7 is a wrap up. Ubisoft has revealed that the complete re-release version of the 2010 PS3 game Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is indeed coming to PS4, and it will do so on January 14th, early next year. However, the publisher/developer also revealed that its remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time has been shifted slightly back and will now come out on March 18th next year. Riot Games announced that its recently revealed League of Legends spin-off Ruined King, which was actually at the show tonight, slated for release on PlayStation platforms, will now be coming later in 2021 as opposed to sooner. Website Gamat, and by the way, that game looks pretty cool. It's a turn-based role-playing game. I think it actually looked much more appealing than I anticipated. Website Gamatsu reports that action game Curse of the Sea Rats is coming to PS4 and PS5 in 2021, while roguelike Curious Expedition 2 is coming to PS4 in 2021. The website also reports Musou One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, released on PS4 and elsewhere earlier in 2020, has surpassed 1 million copies sold, while Remedy Entertainment's 2019 cult hit Control, launched on PS4 and elsewhere and coming to PS5 in 2021, has surpassed 2 million copies sold. And the website likewise reports that adventure game Eurokill, the Culmination Games, has been delayed to 2021 and will now come to both PS4 and PS5, while the long-awaited Rust console edition has again been delayed and may come out at some point in 2021. And finally, the official PlayStation blog has made an unusual announcement. A new character is joining the PS4 and PC exclusive second-party shooter Predator Hunting Grounds in the form of Dante Jefferson, voiced and modeled by famous NFL running back Marshawn Lynch. Very weird if you're a football fan like I am. Very weird indeed. So that's all the news. Chris, it's time for the intriguing games of the week. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so I have a game called Temtem. Are you familiar with this?
I saw it on PlayStation blog.
Yeah.
But I've not played it.
Yeah, so this is basically, from what I've seen, it looks like, hey, what if Pokemon actually changed and actually, took cues from the rest of the industry and actually improved with time instead of being the same game over and over again. That's what this looks like to me. It looks like probably the best Pokemon game that exists. It's you're catching creatures, battling, and it's more than just rock paper scissors. It's cute. It looks good. It's super stylized. I just think it's really good looking. Honestly, it's like I appreciate the fact that, you know, that a game like this exists, because I'm always saying, like, yo, if something works but isn't really being capitalized on, just fucking do it. Like, I think I say this all the time with Shadow of the Colossus. I'm like, dude, I love this game so much that I don't care if somebody just rips it off. Like, please rip it off. I want to play something like this again. And I kind of felt that way about Pokemon for a while, because I used to love it, and then, like, I remember getting, you know, starting with yellow and red and blue, and I was like, oh, these are fun, I like these. And then gold and silver, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is more of the same thing, but, you know, I still like this. And then the next one came out, and it was just the same thing again. I was like, oh my god, I guess I'm done, because I'm not going to keep playing the same game over and over again. And it just feels like the game that, you know, Game Freak or whatever the studio that makes Pokemon, this feels like the game that they would make if they cared. Honestly, like, maybe them's fighting words, but Pokemon is probably Nintendo's most stagnant franchise. Like, every other, like, Breath of the Wild is such a different Zelda game than every game that came prior. Mario Odyssey is like, it's still a 3D Mario game, but you could tell it's like not exactly like Sunshine. It's not exactly like Galaxy. You know, these games evolve, and Pokemon just doesn't. And it's nice to see, like, a window into a world where, like, oh wow, what if Pokemon actually did? And that's what this game is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I haven't played Pokemon in 10 years. I was a big fan for a long time. So, Temtem, it does look pretty cool. I'm gonna have to check it out. My choice here is Brigandine: The Legend of Runerzia.
That is the most Colin game I've ever
heard. So, this one was really appealing to me. I've actually been keeping an eye on this for a while, because it came to Switch a few months ago. For people that don't remember, Brigandine was actually a PS1 strategy role-playing game. And the studio that's making it now, this new Brigandine game, is Matrix, which is a Japanese studio. And Matrix is actually, like, pretty well known for being a longtime Square Enix partner. They do a lot of port work and stuff for them. And they also made the Alundra games, if you guys remember those games on PS1. But I just think it's a cool looking strategy role-playing game. I can't speak to its quality. I have not played it yet. It just came out the day that we're recording this, but I think it looks really, really fun. And I'm always on the look for a game like this. And so I just wanted to give it a little bit of a shout out. Brigandine: The Legend of Runerzia. I don't know. Runerzia. I don't know. Whatever. It looks pretty cool, though. Go check it out if you'd like. All right. As I promised, by the way, Chris, before we get into the 6 questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas.
Of course.
I am, there's not much available here to eat, so I'm going to order Wawa.
Oh, reliable.
Yeah, old reliable Wawa. And let's see here. What do I want? Well, you know what? We don't have to do this right now.
What do you? Well, you should probably order now, honestly.
Well, I already have a little something in the card from last time. It's just a hoagie sandwich. I think I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
And then let me just get. I need some potato. What the fuck is what just happened here? There's too many things at Wawa sometimes here. Let me see.
Menus can be daunting.
I'm gonna get the Lay's barbecue potato chips as well.
A dinner of kings.
All right.
A hoagie sandwich and barbecue potato chips.
Yeah, hot hoagie. So I got chicken strip sandwich, and then I got a side of mac and cheese, a side of mashed potatoes.
Hot hoagie.
I haven't eaten all day. I'm starving like a friggin' Marvin over here. All right. Do I want to get priority shipping or priority? They do priority delivery now. I don't know if it actually does anything or not.
Probably not, honestly.
Yeah, it went from 40 to 50 minutes to 35 to 45 minutes. So I'm not going to do that. Standard is fine. Is everyone enjoying this? This is a good way to end the show, isn't it? Everyone out there and enjoying this?
Riveting content.
All right. Leave a 15% tip. And then it's placed. Perfect. All right. Tradition dictates we end each episode of Sacred Symbols with 6 questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas from the audience on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. Just like Jace Tamulovich did. He wrote into us. Said, hey, handsome whoever is on this episode. I'm a little perplexed by an idea brought up on the Demon Souls spoiler cast. Now, of course, neither Chris or I were on that show, but he says, Dustin and Maddie talked a bit about the idea of Bluepoint getting a shot at Demon Souls 2 or Bloodborne 2. I know the studio works technical wonders, but do they have the creative chops? I'm not aware of any original games they've released. What say you? So what do you think about this idea of Bluepoint getting a crack at an original game, Demon Souls 2 or Bloodborne 2 in this case?
I think that Bluepoint should make an original game. I don't think that they should. And when I say original game, obviously Bloodborne 2 or Demon Souls 2 would technically be like an original game. They wouldn't be remastering anything, but they would still be working off of an IP that they don't necessarily own or that wasn't necessarily birthed from their own creative processes. I think if a studio like Bluepoint is going to make an original game, it should come from them first. It shouldn't be a continuation of an IP that exists or existed elsewhere that just has no hope of being continued by whatever studio started it. I think they should be allowed to, at this point, speak to their own creativity and make whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you. To Jace's question, they did make one original game. It was Blast Factor, which was a PSN launch game, actually back in 2006. But ever since then, they've just been doing port work for Sony primarily, some work for Microsoft as well. I agree with you. It would be first of all, I don't know if they're ever going to make an original game. It just doesn't seem like that's what they do. So that's number one. Number two is, yeah, if you're going to go into a world, let's see what you guys can do. I was reading an interesting story, I think it was on Eurogamer maybe, where they said that they actually submitted a bunch of changes that they wanted in Shadow of the Colossus back in 2018, and that most of them were not included in the game, obviously. So they were thinking about changing the game, and they were basically asked to make a faithful port and remake of the game, which they did. So I just don't know if that's what they're made to do. I don't know if that... We always say this, right, Chris? Like, you hire for the games you want to make. And I've talked in the past about how Guerrilla actually shed quite a bit of talent because they weren't making Killzone anymore, because they were made to make shooters. Those guys want to make shooters. So those guys went to other studios. A lot of them did. Yeah. And so you would assume if you want to work on high-end remakes and really like fidelity and all of that, you go to Bluepoint. And so I don't know if they're really even structured to make original games. Although, to Chris's point, that's what I would like to see the most out of them. I don't know if that's what their best utilization of their skills is, though. So it's worth noting that.
Yeah.
Jimmy Two-Face wrote into us and said, "Hi, guys. Long-time listener, long-time question asker. So I am not a trophy hunter, but I decided I would get the platinum on Astro's Playroom for shits and giggles. It was just to see what the trophy hunting was all about, and now I have a better understanding of the appeal. However, an issue I've always had with trophies is hidden trophies. What's the point? I guess that some are hidden to avoid story spoilers. That makes sense, but the hidden trophies in Astro were not spoilers. I would never have guessed what some of them were for only for Google. Are they made to be Googled? If so, that's kind of poor design, and they are probably the reason I will never properly get into seeking platinums. I don't got time for guessing games. What are your opinions on hidden trophies?" So hidden trophies exist, hidden achievements exist as well, and have since the very beginning. And Jimmy, you called it out. This is primarily done to protect people from story spoilers, but it's also done in games like Astro to stop you from seeing what would otherwise be trophies that you might stumble upon organically. They want you to be surprised as opposed to going and looking for the trophy. But Chris, it seems that Jimmy doesn't know that you can set your PS4 to just show you the hidden trophies using various button prompts. So just go look into that. You don't have to go on Google. Yeah. That wasn't always the case, by the way. Hidden trophies used to be really hidden. You have to go online to find them, which was fucking absurd. That was absurd, but that was like 10 years ago. So, well, how do you feel about hidden trophies and achievements?
Yeah, I used to hate them when you didn't have the option. Like now, there's an option, even if because I still have trophies hidden just because. Yeah, I do care about spoilers sometimes, so I don't want to see shit that I know would ruin shit. But when the second they added the press square to see, like that was it. That was all I wanted. I want the option to see what the hell I'm looking for without having to go on the internet and like cross-reference names with like descriptions. Like it's nice to have the option to just decide whether or not I want to spoil something for myself. And that's ultimately what they added, and it's been there for a while, so I don't really have a problem with hidden trophies anymore. But back in the day, yeah, they were very frustrating. Back when I was still chasing like achievements and still doing that stuff. It was infuriating.
Yeah, on PS5, you have to press the options button, but it's the same sort of situation. I don't find the trophy system on PS5 to be very appealing, though. So as far as the aesthetic is concerned, I wish they would just go back to the way it was, but I'm sure they won't. All right, let's see here. Josh Kishkalt wrote into us and said, CNC, The new feature on PS5 that tracks your total playtime across console generations is awesome. Not only was it great to see From Software games were my top 3, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Sekiro, but it also reignited me to download a few I was close to platinum on. I'm curious what your list looked like. So, I don't know if did you notice this, Chris, this feature on PS5? It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do this.
So, what's pretty crazy is that they've been keeping track of this for years, but have not made this data publicly available until PS5. And so what you basically do is you go to your profile and then you go to games, and there are 4 options, I think, under games. And so it shows you trophies and stuff. And one of them is you can just see your games, and then it shows you how many hours you've played all of your games. Now, I don't know how accurate these numbers are. I said this during Miles Morales that it said I played for 33 hours, and I don't think that that's true. I don't think that can possibly be true. But then I was looking at games like Shadow of the Colossus, and it's like you played it for 8 hours. And I'm like, yeah, I sure did. So... And it's really weird. You can go way, way back, like years back. And so I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but it is a very cool feature. And are you looking at it now?
I'm fumbling around. Like I have to hook up the PlayStation. I want to try it out. I want to see if it see what my list is. But PS5 inexplicably carries over this annoying thing from the PS4, right? Where if you swap from Wi-Fi to wired or wired to Wi-Fi, it won't automatically sync to whatever is available.
Right.
And I don't understand why that's still a problem.
Yeah, it's annoying as shit. Because I used to think you had to restart, but you can actually just go to test network connection, and that like makes it work now.
Yeah.
But the fact that you even have to do that is ridiculous. I agree.
Where is it? It's on my profile?
Yeah, so if you go to the top, like you see your name, like your like your icon.
Yeah.
Click that, and then a drop down will come down, and I think one of them, like, what does it say when you?
It's profile and trophy, so I assume profile.
Yeah, profile, right, and then go to one of them should be games, right?
Oh yeah, Destiny 2. That's obvious.
It's pretty cool, right? Yeah, it's kind of a hidden feature. A lot of people don't know that that's even there.
Yeah, it says. This is weird because like this is exactly what I was talking about, like where like the PS4 and PS5 versions count as different things. So on PS5, I've played Destiny 2 for 6 hours. On PS4, I've played Destiny 2 for 275. So
yeah, so that seems accurate to you.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate.
Interesting. Okay, cool. All right. Well, there you go. That's a feature if any of you want to go check it out. I think it's fun to look at. A little disturbing. Also kind of shows sometimes you overshoot how much you think you played a game, which I noticed as well.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was like at 2 billion hours,
Memsec wrote into us on Patreon. I really want to hear what you have to say about this because I've been getting some shit about this.
Okay.
Hi, Colin and Chris. A thing Colin mentioned multiple times does bug me. Maybe you can clarify. Why does anyone use a PS4 or PS5 to watch Netflix or other streaming services? It seems so unnecessary since I presume everyone uses a smart TV where such services are built-in apps. So why? Do you use your PlayStation or Xbox to watch apps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I use my Xbox primarily just because all of my info is like synced between them, and I had to I started up the PS5 when I got it, and I was like, I downloaded Netflix, and I was like, oh, can you sign in? And I was like, I don't remember what the fuck this is. So,
That's the worst.
Yeah, so yeah, no, I use my Xbox for pretty much all that shit. I use it for Hulu, I use it for Netflix, I use it for YouTube. My TV is a smart TV. It runs, these apps just run better on these consoles. Like even on the PS4 and Xbox One, these apps run better than a TV does. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about like every smart TV that I've ever owned, but like the latency on the remote and like just how slow shit is. It's annoying. And Netflix runs super fast on these new machines. So it's just nice. Well,
yeah, PS5 especially, it loads like in 2 seconds, but
yeah.
I'm a little surprised by some people's contention about this because I just think the experience in using a controller is better. So that's why I do it. It's just, you can just zip around with the D-pad and type things in quickly with the X button. And it's just, I've had smart TVs for 10 years pretty much almost, but I use the smart TV in my bedroom now but I have a PS5 in my bedroom now too. So I guess I don't know, but I use my smart TV in my bedroom, but I just like the interface of using the PS5, and I'm also just used to it. I imagine a lot of people do that. So people have been kind of busting my balls ever since I revealed that I do that, but I don't know. I didn't think it was a point of contention. So
yeah, I fail to see the issue.
Well, fuck you, Memsec. It's not very nice.
Yeah,
Not a very nice thing to say. Hi Senpai wrote into us and said, hey guys, I try to be a frugal gamer by waiting for prices to drop and hopefully a complete or Game of the Year edition is released with all DLC and bugs patched at a cheaper price. Sometimes I get lucky and the game comes to PS Plus. However, sometimes the devs and publishers don't have a DLC plan or fail to communicate their roadmap, so I end up waiting a little too long for nothing extra. God of War was a recent example as I only played it during spring of 2020. It was so successful that I believed there would be future content, but alas, Sony could have taken my money sooner. CD Projekt Red has been pleasantly forthcoming about Cyberpunk 2077, getting DLC, and other games will be getting next-gen updates, so I'll happily wait without any doubts. I'm waiting to see what's going on with Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima. What are your thoughts on the different approaches taken by devs and publishers when it comes to announcing DLC, as I feel they sometimes miss out on sales from customers like myself? I don't know. I feel like he's missing something here, which is like, you're saying you want to be frugal, so even if you're not getting something earlier, isn't your primary function to be saving money? That's what you're saying. So I guess I'm a little confused by this, because he's saying he wants to be frugal, but then he could have spent money sooner if they just announced their DLC plan sooner. So I'm a little confused by his point there, but I wanted to know about if you find yourself waiting for complete or Game of the Year editions before you play.
I don't know. Like, these Game of the Year editions always frustrated me because of that. It almost felt like, oh, hey, yeah, you gave us money, now fuck you. I know that that's not really what it is, but it always felt like, oh, man, I could have just waited. And I guess that's always the case. You could always just wait, ultimately. Like, you know, you can wait 20 years and get something for free, ultimately, in a bargain bin. But I don't know. Like, I think typically I would prefer them to be forthcoming and just be like, hey, you know, like, here's our roadmap. Here's what the plan is. What I prefer is ultimately like the sucker punch route, where it's like, hey, you know, here's our game and that's it. You know, and then, oh, whoops, here's a surprise. Here's a free multiplayer mode that is just completely free and is awesome and, you know, runs 60 frames per second on next generation, and you don't got to worry about a next gen upgrade. It just happens. That I like, because that's like unplanned as far as like the consumer goes, but it's like it's also not trying to gouge you necessarily. But I don't know, like I feel like as time has gone on, my feelings about DLC has just become really apathetic. Like I really don't care at all. Like if I want to play a game like really quick, it really soon after launch, then I'll just do it, and I won't think much about like whether or not there's a roadmap in place. In fact, I prefer games without roadmaps. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I do. I remember getting my balls busted for making fun of Ubisoft when the Division 2 announced their roadmap like a year before the game came out.
Yeah.
But I guess, and it was literally a year.
No, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Just put your game out and then we'll go from there, you know? Look at Anthem with their roadmap. I wonder how that's going.
Yeah, it worked out great for them, so. Yeah, I'm finding that as time passes, I'm finding these Game of the Year editions and complete editions more appealing, but just based on time passing and me not getting the games. I'm not really looking for them. Like the Final Fantasy 15 complete edition, whatever it's called, the Royal edition or whatever, that's like really appealing to me because it's been 4 years and I've still not gotten around to playing it really. So it's not like I'm seeking them out, but for frugality, I think it's a great idea to wait, not only for the cheaper version of the game, but because it's patched, and that's what he said. I mean, it's just going to run better. It's going to look better. It's going to feel better. So you can have it any other way. But I'm a little confused, Hi Senpai, because you're talking about frugality, but then you're talking about how you would have spent your money sooner if they just said that they weren't going to put DLC into the game. But then you probably got God of War for like $10. So which do you want? You can't have it both ways. All right, final question this week, Chris, comes from Thomas Connolly, who says, hey guys, have you seen the controversy surrounding epileptic triggers in Cyberpunk 2077? A journalist that suffers from epilepsy wrote an article for Game Informer detailing how epileptic gamers can best avoid and be cautious of certain sections of Cyberpunk that contain a lot of rapid flashing red and blue lights. Some gamers saw this as negative criticism of the game and sent this journalist videos over social media of flashing lights to trigger her disorder. The message she was trying to spread was Cyberpunk needs to have better accessibility options for epileptics because she experienced a seizure while playing the game. Do you guys think a seizure warning in the beginning of the game is enough, or should CD Projekt Red make better strides to be more accessible to people with different disabilities? Thanks and have a great week. So, first of all, it's worth noting that CD Projekt says, and it's true, that this was in their EULA But you'll notice when you play many games that there's an explicit epileptic warning for epilepsy because it's a serious thing that games can trigger.
Yeah.
And as far as I understand, I could be wrong about this, but I think that a lot of epilepsy checks in certification are actually done, I guess, by computer programs. Like, it's not like someone looking at it and saying like, or a developer saying like, we have an epilepsy concern. I think it's like software that goes in and sees if there's anything to be concerned about.
Yeah.
So I think that you can't really blame CD Projekt completely for that because it got through certification on both Xbox and PlayStation without that warning. So sometimes the buck has to stop with someone outside of their realm, and I think it stops with the platform holders in a way because it's in the EULA. But the bigger thing I wanted to kind of just close in with this, Chris, to get your take on this is just, why do people have to be so mean and rude and horrible to other people, whether online or in person? It's like, first of all, this woman is just trying to instruct other people about this thing that could kill her and kill other people. But apart from that, it's like, why is every criticism, especially of this game, but like, why is it so personal for people? And why do people have to be so unpleasant and so rude? I know this happened also to the woman that reviewed the game at GameSpot. It's like, I don't understand why people have to be like that. And I just wanted to call that out. Just everyone be nicer and just more decent to each other. But anyway, what do you think about this whole epileptic, I can't say the word, epilepsy situation in Cyberpunk? I thought it was pretty staggering because it's almost lucky that CD Projekt had a Game Informer reviewer catch this before it really got wide, because they could have had a serious problem on their hands. Although I think that legally they could have just said like it was in the user agreement, you know? But,
yeah.
But what's legal and what's right are two different things. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it was the right thing to do to call it out and make sure that people were aware of it. I don't think that the reviewer did anything wrong. I think it's super fucked up that people were doing that. That's really pretty disgusting. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, it is pretty wild that it managed to get through certification that way. It is kind of wild that there was no, because even like without, like, I'm not a software, but like, I mean, you look at a game like Cyberpunk with all the like the glitchiness of it, and I'm not even talking about like the state of the game. I'm just talking about like the aesthetic of it, like with all the neon and all the, you know, the intentional kind of glitching effects that kind of happen in the game. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely like that's definitely going to be like a game with something like that in it. And I obviously don't think about it often because I don't have that problem, but it is kind of shocking that nobody just the warning would have been pretty obvious, I thought, just based on what kind of game it is.
Sure. Yeah, it's I don't know. The whole situation around Cyberpunk it would be interesting to delve into further later on, just because I just don't understand where people come from with a lot of stuff. I'm not saying it's a lot of people either. It's just a loud minority of people,
not really that many. It's a handful of like psychos. I saw one I think journalist who was talking about like, this is your community, you know, and it's like, okay, come on, dude. Like, let's be real. Like, yeah, it's not like millions of people sending this one woman epileptic videos. Like, let's not. You can criticize something without like, you know, lying or overblowing.
Yeah, the hyperbole gets a little out of control. I agree. Well, that's all we have for this episode, this late night episode of the show. I'm sure Dustin's going to be thrilled editing it tonight. Chris, do you have any closing comments before we go?
No, I think Hades and Doom got snubbed a little bit, but you know, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Hades especially.
Yeah,
looks like
yeah. Well, Hades won Best Action Game, which is, you know, fair. I suppose.
Okay.
It was between that and Doom Eternal, and I was happy with either of them. But I don't know, man. Doom, come on, like Doom's so good. But
yeah,
whatever.
Doom kind of seems to have been forgotten, not by the VGAs, but just generally. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about it, like they were talking about Doom 2016. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame.
Well, it is a shame. All right, Chris. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate you as always.
Well, thank you, man.
And thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support of our show, whether on free feeds or on Patreon at patreon.com/Colin's Last Stand. We'll see you next time for more Sacred Symbols and Sacred Symbols Plus. Until next time, goodbye.
Take care, guys.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product of and a registered trademark of Colin's Last Stand, LLC, and is recorded from Richmond, Virginia and Burbank, California, USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is produced by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is Chris Raygun. You can find me on Twitter at NoTaxation and on Instagram at CLS Moriarty. Chris is on Twitter at Chris R. Gunn and on Instagram at Chris_Ray_Gun. Sacred Symbols is edited by Dustin Furman. To message the show online, please use Patreon's DM service. As you know, all of Colin's Last Stand shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. The following names are at the producer level or higher on Patreon, and we are eternally grateful for your kindness, generosity, and fandom. Nick DeMarco, Constantine Valencia, Andrew Morgan, Gregory Slavinsky, Stephen Nieder, Ross Marenka, Zach Parsley, Miguel A. Brewer, Morgan Ashley, Ben, Azan, Michael Vecchio, Brianne, Joey Finelli, Jerome Ferreira, SL the FMA, Ryan T. Mandel, Jorge Palomino, Enrique Perez, Don Lee, Daniel Diamore, Brad Cooley, Jeremy Key, Patrick Leslie, Homeworld Hub, William Holbert, 3dprintshop.com, Chris Buston, Betty Ann Moriarty, Colin Jewell, Nelson LeBlanc, Daniel Johnson, Zach Bonham, an Unofficial Controller Podcast, Jay Getter, Vexius, Jeff Mercado, Galja, of Fortuna, Boots, Megadet, Saul Balcazar, Raul Melendez, Bloody Fang, Eric Harden, Matt Martin, Rodney Coleman, Chris Moore, TB Lightning, Andy Kinnanen, Taylor Barkley, Chris Galvin, Ryan Murdoch, Mason Cadillac, Ollie Fritz, Chris Buston, Zach Allum, George Anthony Nunez, Kyle Hagel, Colin Love, Daryl E. Naiman, Ryan R. Kittredge, Toby Ryland, Michael S., Damon Weathers, Carl Tolman, Richter86, Barrett Boswell, Christopher DeVio, Kevin Kamaki, Blake Israel, Sean Mason, Josh Gravelick, Brian Chan, Organic Produce, Ali C83, Isaac Wastman, Mubarak, Carlos Algarit, McDog18, Richard Hebert III, Miranda Grubba, Ray Leja, David Castanez, Donnie Nolan, Josh Yeager, Matthew Cooper, Toothless Gibbon, Martin Beck, Gavin, Joey Andrzejczyk, Nathan R., Joe McPartlin, Christopher Moore, Lawrence F. Prokop, Colin Davenport, Eric Finkenbeiner, Lou and Ray Loper, Dylan Burns, John Schultz, David Chestnut, Yusuf, Anton K., Alan Tremblay, Tyler Bello, Tony Zuniga, Sean Battershall, Robbie Hensley, Alex Cabrera, Lennon Brixey, Corey Wyatt, James Kinslow III, Hugo's Desk, Peter Reynolds, William O. Carroll, JSC 0828, Jesper Jansen, Phil Crone, Throw7, Adam Nix, Josh McKinney, Michael Gates, Alex Gates, Sean Chandler, Petro Rose, Gio Corsi, Greg Latta, Gerald Pennington, Justin Wagaman, Paul Joyce, Chad Lewis, Todd Paxton, Joshua Smallwood, Shane Rayum, Spencer Brand, John Cordero, Greg Juliffs, Mark Boggio, Keith A. Lewis,